Hey there, wonderful people. Picture a world where understanding your own body meant relying on superstition and guesswork, where the inner workings of human anatomy were as mysterious as the cosmos itself. Because what we're exploring today is one of the most misunderstood systems in the human body, something so elegantly designed yet so frequently taken for granted that even modern medicine continues to uncover its secrets. But before we dive in, as always, I'd love it if you could hit that like button and subscribe. It truly helps the channel grow. Drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. Now, settle in, dim those lights if you can, and let's drift into the fascinating realm of something boring about human anatomy. Close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep, not yet, but to imagine. Picture yourself as you were this morning. Perhaps you woke naturally, or maybe an alarm pulled you from wherever you'd gone. Either way, you returned. You came back from a place that has no geography, no zip code, and no GPS coordinates. You came back from sleep. We spend roughly a third of our lives doing this. A third. If you live to 80, that's about 26 years spent unconscious, lying down, breathing slowly, with your eyes closed and your mind wandering through landscapes that dissolve the moment you try to remember them. 26 years. It seems almost wasteful, doesn't it? Like some cosmic design flaw. Imagine what you could accomplish with an extra 8 hours every day. The books you could read, the skills you could learn, the conversations you could have, and yet, here we are. Every creature with a nervous system does some version of this. Dolphins sleep with half their brain at a time. Birds can sleep mid-flight. Even fruit flies take what researchers call rest periods that look suspiciously like sleep. Evolution is ruthless. It doesn't keep things around just for fun. If sleep has survived this long, across millions of years and countless species, it must be doing something absolutely essential. But what exactly? That's the question we're going to explore tonight. Not with anxiety or urgency, but with curiosity. We're going to take our time, moving gently through the science and the poetry of sleep, understanding not just what happens when we close our eyes, but why it matters so profoundly. We're going to look at your brain, your body, your immune system, your memories, your emotions, all the invisible machinery that depends on those hours of darkness. So settle in, get comfortable. Let's begin this journey into one of the most mysterious and essential processes your body performs. Let's start with your brain. Right now, as you listen to these words, your brain is consuming about 20% of your body's total energy. That's remarkable when you consider that your brain makes up only about 2% of your body weight. It's an expensive organ to run. All day long it's firing neurons, processing information, making decisions, regulating your heartbeat and breathing, and keeping you balanced and aware and alive. Now imagine your brain is like a city. During the day it's bustling, traffic everywhere, people moving from place to place. Meetings are happening, transactions are being made, garbage accumulating on the streets. And yes, garbage is exactly the right word because your neurons produce waste. As they fire and communicate with each other, they generate metabolic byproducts, proteins and other molecules that build up in the spaces between your brain cells. One of these waste products is called beta amyloid. You might recognize that name. It's the protein that forms plaques in the brains of people with Alzheimer's disease. During the day, while you're awake and thinking and moving through the world, beta amyloid and other waste molecules accumulate in your brain tissue. They just sit there, building up, like newspapers piling up on a doorstep. So what happens at night? When you fall asleep, something extraordinary occurs. The glial cells in your brain, these are the support cells, the ones that aren't neurons, but do all sorts of essential housekeeping, actually change shape. They shrink slightly, and in doing so, they open up the spaces between brain cells by about 60%. Suddenly, there's room for fluid to flow through. And it does. Cerebrospinal fluid, the clear liquid that cushions your brain and spinal cord, begins to pulse through your brain tissue in waves. It washes through these widened channels, collecting all that metabolic waste and all those accumulated proteins and flushing them out. The fluid carries this cellular garbage down and away, eventually filtering it into your bloodstream, where it can be processed and eliminated. This is called the glymphatic system, a play on lymphatic and glia, and it works most effectively when you're asleep. Scientists discovered this relatively recently in 2012 using 2-photon microscopy to watch the process happen in real time in the brains of living mice. It was beautiful and startling, seeing those waves of fluid washing through brain tissue, clearing away the debris of thought. Without this nightly cleaning process, the waste builds up. Day after day, the accumulation grows. And there's increasing evidence that this buildup is connected to neurodegenerative diseases. People who chronically don't get enough sleep have higher levels of beta amyloid in their brains. The connection between poor sleep and Alzheimer's risk isn't just correlation, there's a mechanistic link. Your brain needs those hours of darkness to take out the trash. Think about that for a moment. Every night, while you're lost in dreams or deep unconsciousness, your brain is performing essential maintenance. It's not idle. It's not wasting time. It's cleaning house, preparing for another day of thinking and feeling and being you. But the maintenance goes deeper than cleaning. Let's talk about what happens to your memories while you sleep. You've probably noticed that trying to memorize something when you're exhausted is nearly impossible. The words slide off your mind like water off glass. You read the same sentence 3 times and retain nothing. There's a reason for that. Your brain's ability to encode new memories, to take in fresh information and store it, depends on being well rested. But sleep doesn't just prepare you to make new memories. It actively processes the memories you've already made. During the day, when you experience something new, that information gets temporarily stored in a part of your brain called the hippocampus. Think of the hippocampus as a kind of inbox. It's great for short-term storage, for holding on to things just long enough to decide what to do with them. But it has limited capacity. If you kept everything in your inbox forever, it would overflow. You'd never find anything. So at night, during certain stages of sleep, particularly deep slow-wave sleep, your brain begins a process called memory consolidation. It's like a diligent office assistant going through that inbox, deciding what's important enough to file away permanently and what can be deleted. The hippocampus replays the day's experiences, sending them out to the cortex, the outer layer of your brain where long-term memories are stored. Neural patterns that were active during the day fire again during sleep, but faster, like someone pressing fast forward on a recording. These replay events happen over and over, strengthening the connections between neurons, making the memory more stable, more permanent, and more integrated with everything else you know. And here's the fascinating part. Your brain doesn't just replay everything randomly, it's selective. It prioritizes emotional memories and information you've been told is important. If you study something right before bed, your brain is more likely to consolidate that information during the night. Students who sleep after learning perform better on tests than students who stay awake, even if both groups have the same amount of total rest before the test. Sleep is also when your brain extracts patterns and insights from the information it's collected. There are countless stories of people solving problems in their sleep. Scientists who wake up with the answer to an equation, writers who find the plot twist they'd been searching for, and musicians who hear a melody in a dream. This isn't magic or mysticism. It's your brain, freed from the constraints of conscious logic, making creative connections between disparate pieces of information. REM sleep, the stage where most vivid dreaming occurs, seems particularly important for this creative problem solving. During REM, your brain is almost as active as when you're awake, but the activity is different. The prefrontal cortex, which handles rational thought and executive function, is relatively quiet. Meanwhile, other areas light up, making unusual associations, connecting ideas that wouldn't normally come together. So when you sleep on a problem, you're not avoiding it. You're letting your brain work on it in a completely different way. Now let's shift from your brain to your body, because sleep doesn't just matter for cognition and memory, it matters for every system you have. Consider your immune system. You know the feeling, that scratchy throat, that first hint of a cold coming on, and all you want to do is crawl into bed and sleep for 12 hours. That instinct is ancient and wise. Sleep and immunity are deeply intertwined. When you sleep, your immune system goes into production mode. It manufactures cytokines. These are proteins that help fight infection and inflammation. Some cytokines also help promote sleep, creating a feedback loop. You get sick, the cytokines make you sleepy, you sleep more, and that extra sleep helps you produce more immune cells to fight off whatever's invaded your body. Studies have shown this connection clearly. Researchers exposed volunteers to rhinovirus, the common cold virus, and tracked who got sick. The people who had been sleeping less than 7 hours a night were about 3 times more likely to develop a cold than those sleeping 8 hours or more. Not a little more likely. 3 times. The same pattern shows up with vaccines. People who are sleep deprived when they get vaccinated produce fewer antibodies. Their bodies mount a weaker immune response. Sleep-deprived mice exposed to the influenza virus die at higher rates than well-rested mice. The connection is consistent and clear. Sleep is when your body builds and deploys its defenses. Part of this has to do with what happens to certain immune cells during sleep. T cells, which are crucial for fighting infections, become more effective when you're asleep. During sleep, T cells increase their expression of integrins, molecules that help them attach to infected cells and destroy them. When you're awake, stress hormones like adrenaline suppress this integrin expression. But when you sleep, those stress hormones drop, and your T cells become better hunters. It's elegant, really. Your body knows that nighttime, when you're safe and still, and not expending energy on movement or thought, is the perfect time to redirect resources toward repair and defense. And repair is exactly what's happening throughout your body while you sleep. Let's talk about growth hormone for a moment. You might associate growth hormone with childhood, with getting taller, and with developing. But adults produce growth hormone too, and it plays essential roles in maintaining muscle mass, repairing tissue, and keeping your metabolism functioning properly. The majority of growth hormone secretion happens during deep sleep. When researchers deprive people of sleep, growth hormone production drops dramatically. This has real consequences. Chronic sleep deprivation leads to decreased muscle mass and increased fat accumulation, particularly around the abdomen. It makes it harder to build strength, harder to recover from exercise, and harder to maintain a healthy body composition. Athletes know this intuitively. Professional sports teams now employ sleep coaches. They track players' sleep patterns because they've learned that sleep is as important as training. A basketball player who sleeps 10 hours instead of 8 will have faster reaction times, better shooting accuracy, and improved endurance. A football player who gets adequate sleep is less likely to get injured. Sleep isn't recovery time. It is recovery. Your muscles don't actually get stronger when you work out. They get stronger when you rest afterward, particularly when you sleep. exercise creates tiny tears in muscle fibers. During sleep, your body floods those muscles with growth hormone and other repair molecules, rebuilding the fibers thicker and stronger than before. Without adequate sleep, you're doing all the damage of exercise without giving your body the time and resources it needs to rebuild. The same goes for almost every tissue in your body. Your skin cells repair DNA damage from sun exposure while you sleep. Your gut lining, which turns over constantly, regenerates more effectively at night. Even your bones are remodeled during sleep, with old bone tissue being broken down and new bone being laid down in a carefully orchestrated process. Sleep is when your body becomes a construction site, rebuilding and repairing everything that wore down during the day. Let's turn to something that might surprise you: the relationship between sleep and your weight, your metabolism, and your hunger. There are two hormones you need to know about. One is called leptin, and it tells your brain you're full, you've had enough to eat. The other is called ghrelin, and it tells your brain you're hungry and it's time to find food. When you don't get enough sleep, leptin levels drop and ghrelin levels rise. Your body starts sending signals that you're starving, that you need more calories, even if you've eaten plenty. At the same time, the parts of your brain that make rational decisions about food become less active, while the parts that respond to pleasure and reward light up more intensely when they see high-calorie foods. So after a bad night's sleep, that donut looks more appealing. That bag of chips is harder to resist. It's not a failure of willpower, it's neurobiology. Your brain is responding to hormone signals that are telling it to seek out energy-dense food because resources are scarce. Except resources aren't scarce. You're just tired. Chronic sleep deprivation is associated with weight gain and obesity. People who sleep less than 6 hours a night are significantly more likely to have a higher body mass index. The relationship holds even when researchers control for diet and exercise. Sleep itself, or the lack of it, affects your metabolism. Part of this has to do with insulin sensitivity. Insulin is the hormone that helps your cells absorb glucose from your bloodstream. When you're sleep deprived, your cells become less responsive to insulin. Your pancreas has to produce more insulin to get the same effect. This is called insulin resistance, and it's the hallmark of type 2 diabetes. Studies have shown that just 1 week of sleeping 5 hours a night can reduce insulin sensitivity by up to 30%. Young, healthy volunteers with no history of metabolic problems can be pushed toward pre-diabetic states simply by restricting their sleep. And when they're allowed to sleep normally again, their insulin sensitivity returns to normal. The effect is reversible, but it's also very real. So if you've ever wondered why diet and exercise alone sometimes aren't enough, why the weight won't come off despite your best efforts, consider your sleep. It might be working against you in ways you didn't realize. Now we need to talk about your heart, your cardiovascular system, the network of vessels and valves and chambers that keeps blood flowing to every cell in your body. There's a natural experiment that happens twice a year in most countries. It's called daylight saving time. In the spring we lose an hour of sleep. In the fall we gain an hour. It's just 60 minutes. Not much, right? But researchers have found something remarkable. In the days following the springtime change, when people lose an hour of sleep, there's a measurable spike in heart attacks. About 24% more heart attacks occur on the Monday after we spring forward. And in the fall, when we gain an hour, there's a corresponding drop in heart attacks. 1 hour. That's all it takes to see a population-level effect on cardiovascular events. Chronic sleep deprivation has even clearer effects. People who regularly sleep less than 6 hours a night have a significantly higher risk of developing high blood pressure, having a heart attack, or having a stroke. The mechanisms are multiple. Sleep deprivation increases activation of the sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response, which keeps your heart rate elevated and your blood vessels constricted. Over time, this constant state of stress damages the cardiovascular system. Sleep deprivation also increases inflammation throughout the body. Inflammatory molecules circulate in your bloodstream, contributing to atherosclerosis, the buildup of plaques in your arteries. Your blood pressure doesn't dip at night the way it should, a pattern called non-dipping that's associated with worse cardiovascular outcomes. And there's another factor, sleep apnea. This is a condition where people stop breathing repeatedly during the night. Their airway collapses, oxygen levels drop, and they wake up just enough to gasp for air before falling back asleep. They often don't remember these awakenings, but they can happen dozens or even hundreds of times a night. Sleep apnea is strongly linked to high blood pressure, heart disease, and stroke. The repeated drops in oxygen stress the heart and blood vessels. The constant mini-awakenings prevent deep, restorative sleep. Many people have sleep apnea without knowing it, waking up feeling unrested year after year, not understanding why. Your heart needs rest too. During deep sleep, your heart rate slows, your blood pressure drops, and your cardiovascular system gets a break from the demands of keeping you upright and moving through the world. Without that break, it wears down faster. Let's shift gears and talk about emotions, about mood, about the surprising ways that sleep affects how you feel and how you respond to the world. Have you ever noticed that everything feels worse when you're tired? That small frustrations feel enormous? That you're more likely to snap at someone you love? More likely to cry at something that wouldn't normally bother you? Sleep and emotional regulation are intimately connected. The amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure deep in your brain, is crucial for processing emotions, particularly fear and threat. When you're well rested, your prefrontal cortex, the rational thinking part of your brain, keeps the amygdala in check. It provides context, perspective, and inhibition. But when you're sleep deprived, the connection between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala weakens. The amygdala becomes hyperactive, responding more intensely to negative stimuli. At the same time, the prefrontal cortex, which would normally calm things down, becomes less effective. The result? You're more reactive, more emotional, more likely to perceive neutral faces as threatening, more likely to remember negative experiences and forget positive ones. Your emotional thermostat is turned up, and the mechanism for turning it back down isn't working properly. This has real implications for mental health. Insomnia and depression are so closely linked that it's often hard to tell which came first. They feed each other. Poor sleep worsens mood. Low mood disrupts sleep. The cycle spirals. But here's something hopeful. Treating sleep problems can improve depression. In clinical trials, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, teaching people to sleep better, reduces symptoms of depression even when the therapy doesn't directly address mood. Better sleep, better mood. The connection runs both ways. Anxiety disorders show similar patterns. People with anxiety often have trouble falling asleep because their minds race with worries. And chronic sleep deprivation makes anxiety worse, lowering the threshold for fear responses, making it harder to extinguish learned fears and creating a state of constant vigilance. REM sleep seems particularly important for emotional processing. During REM, your brain reactivates emotional memories, but does so in a neurochemical environment that's different from waking. Norepinephrine, a stress-related neurotransmitter, drops to nearly zero during REM sleep. This allows you to process emotional experiences without the physiological stress response, essentially taking the emotional charge out of memories while preserving the information. There's a phrase, "Time heals all wounds." Maybe it should be, sleep heals all wounds, or at least helps. Now let's consider decision-making and impulse control, the ways that sleep affects your choices, your behavior, and your judgment. The prefrontal cortex is one of the brain regions most affected by sleep deprivation. This is the part of your brain that handles executive functions, planning, reasoning, inhibiting inappropriate responses, and weighing consequences. When you're tired, the prefrontal cortex essentially goes offline first, like a brownout hitting the city's most energy-intensive neighborhoods. What happens when executive function declines? You become more impulsive, more likely to take risks, less able to consider long-term consequences. Studies have shown that sleep-deprived people are more likely to make risky financial decisions, more likely to engage in unethical behavior, and more likely to give up on difficult tasks. In one study, military personnel who were sleep-deprived for just one night showed decision-making impairments equivalent to being legally drunk. Their reaction times slowed. Their ability to assess threats decreased. Their judgment faltered. Sleep deprivation doesn't just make you tired, it makes you cognitively impaired. This has enormous implications for safety. Drowsy driving kills more people than drunk driving in many countries, yet we treat it far less seriously. A person who's been awake for 24 hours has cognitive impairment equivalent to a blood alcohol level of 0.10%, above the legal limit for driving in most places. But while drunk driving carries severe penalties and social stigma, we often celebrate or admire people who pull all-nighters, who burn the midnight oil, and who sacrifice sleep for productivity. Medical residents, who routinely work 30-hour shifts with little to no sleep, make more medical errors. Surgeons who've slept less than 6 hours are more likely to have complications during procedures. Truck drivers who violate hours of service regulations cause more accidents. The data is clear and consistent. When people don't sleep enough, their judgment suffers and people get hurt. But it's not just about dramatic failures and accidents, it's about the small decisions too. Choosing what to eat, how to respond to a colleague's comment, whether to exercise or skip it, whether to be patient with your child or snap at them. All of these decisions are influenced by how well you slept last night. Let's talk about creativity for a moment, about innovation and insight, and those sudden moments of clarity that feel like gifts. There's something called the default mode network in your brain. It's a set of brain regions that become active when you're not focused on the external world, when you're daydreaming or letting your mind wander. This network is crucial for self-reflection, for imagining the future, and for making connections between seemingly unrelated ideas. During REM sleep, the default mode network is highly active. At the same time, the parts of your brain that filter out irrelevant information and that keep you focused and on task during waking hours are dialed down. The result is a brain state where associations flow more freely, where ideas that would normally be kept separate can mingle and combine in novel ways. This is why dreams are so strange and why they sometimes contain solutions to problems you've been wrestling with. Your brain is exploring possibility space without the usual constraints. It's making connections that your conscious mind, with all its logical rules and learned patterns, might never make. Thomas Edison knew this. He would sit in a chair holding ball bearings in his hand, hovering just above a metal plate. As he drifted off to sleep, his hand would relax, the ball bearings would drop and clang against the plate, and he would wake up. He was trying to catch that liminal state between waking and sleeping, that moment when the mind becomes more fluid and creative. Salvador Dali did something similar with a key and a plate. These artists and inventors understood intuitively what neuroscience is now confirming. The sleeping brain is not turned off. It's doing different work that matters. Sleep doesn't just help you execute ideas better, it helps you have better ideas in the first place. Now we need to address something that many people experience but don't always talk about: the relationship between sleep and pain. Chronic pain and poor sleep form another one of those vicious cycles. Pain makes it hard to sleep, but lack of sleep also amplifies pain. It lowers your pain threshold, making you more sensitive to stimuli that would normally be tolerable. Researchers have demonstrated this in the lab. Take people who are sleeping normally, restrict their sleep to just 4 hours a night, and test their pain sensitivity. Within a few days, they become significantly more sensitive to pain. The same stimulus that would have been mildly uncomfortable becomes genuinely painful. The mechanisms are complex. Sleep deprivation affects how the nervous system processes pain signals. It increases inflammation throughout the body. It disrupts the production of natural pain-relieving compounds. People with chronic pain conditions, fibromyalgia, arthritis, migraines, and back pain often have sleep disturbances, and improving sleep can reduce pain even without any other interventions. This matters enormously for quality of life. If you're in pain, you deserve to pursue every possible avenue for relief. And one of those avenues, often overlooked, is sleep. Not as a cure-all, but as a meaningful piece of the puzzle. Let's consider aging, because sleep changes as we get older, and those changes have consequences. Older adults often complain that they can't sleep like they used to. They wake up more frequently during the night, they have trouble falling asleep, they don't spend as much time in deep sleep. These aren't just annoying inconveniences, they're linked to cognitive decline. Deep sleep is when the brain does much of that crucial cleaning we talked about earlier. As people age, they spend less time in deep sleep, which means less opportunity for the glymphatic system to clear out metabolic waste. This might be part of why neurodegenerative diseases are more common in older adults. The brain has been accumulating waste for years, with progressively less efficient cleaning each night. But here's something important. Age-related sleep changes aren't inevitable and universal. They're influenced by lifestyle, by health conditions, and by sleep disorders that often go undiagnosed in older adults. Many older people who think they just don't need as much sleep anymore actually have sleep apnea or restless leg syndrome or another treatable condition that's disrupting their sleep. The belief that older adults need less sleep is a myth. They need just as much as they did when they were younger. What changes is their ability to get it, not their need for it. And when older adults do get adequate, high-quality sleep, they show better cognitive function, better mood, and better physical health. Sleep still matters, perhaps more than ever. Now let's explore something that affects many people in modern life: artificial light and screens. For most of human history, the sun dictated when we woke and when we slept. We spent our evenings in darkness or by dim firelight. Then came electric lighting, then television, then computers and smartphones, tablets and e-readers. All of these devices emit blue light, which is the wavelength of light that most strongly affects our circadian rhythms, our internal biological clocks. Blue light signals to your brain that it's daytime and that you should be awake and alert. It suppresses the production of melatonin, the hormone that helps you feel sleepy and prepares your body for sleep. When you stare at a bright screen in the evening, you're essentially telling your brain it's the middle of the day. Your body delays the production of melatonin. You don't feel sleepy at your normal bedtime. You stay awake later. And if you have to wake up at a fixed time for work or other obligations, you end up sleep deprived. This is called social jet lag, and it's incredibly common. People stay up late on screens, then use alarm clocks to wake up earlier than their bodies naturally would. They're living in a constant state of circadian misalignment, where their internal clock says one thing and their schedule demands another. The solution isn't to abandon technology, it's to be thoughtful about when and how you use it. Dim your screens in the evening. Use blue light filters. Establish boundaries around screen time before bed. Create a buffer zone between the bright digital world and sleep. Your brain needs that transition. It needs a gradual dimming, a winding down, a signal that the day is ending and rest is coming. Without it, you're fighting your own biology. We should talk about sleep debt. This is the accumulated deficit that builds up when you consistently don't get enough sleep. Many people think of sleep like a bank account. Miss a few hours during the week, catch up on the weekend, and you're square. But it doesn't quite work that way. You can recover from short-term sleep deprivation by sleeping more for a few nights. But chronic sleep debt, months or years of insufficient sleep, doesn't disappear with one good weekend. The effects accumulate in ways that aren't always obvious. You adapt to functioning on less sleep. You might not feel as tired as you did at first, but objective measures tell a different story. Your reaction times remain slow. Your cognitive performance stays impaired. You've simply adjusted to a diminished baseline. You've forgotten what it feels like to be fully rested. This is particularly insidious because you don't realize how impaired you are. Studies have shown that people who are chronically sleep deprived lose the ability to accurately assess their own cognitive function. They think they're doing fine. They're not. The good news is that prioritizing sleep can start to reverse these effects. Not overnight, but gradually. Your body begins to recover. Your brain starts to function better. You might be amazed at how much better you feel after consistently getting adequate sleep for a few weeks. It's like upgrading to a version of yourself you'd forgotten existed. Let's consider individual differences, because not everyone sleeps the same way. There are genuinely different chronotypes: morning larks who wake up naturally at dawn, and night owls who come alive in the evening. These aren't just preferences or habits. They're biological differences in circadian rhythms, influenced by genetics. Trying to force a night owl to function at their best at 7 in the morning is like asking them to work while jet-lagged. Their body clock says it's the middle of the night. Modern society is built for morning people, early school start times, 9 to 5 work days, morning meetings. This creates real hardship for people whose biology runs on a different schedule. They're constantly fighting their natural rhythms, perpetually sleep deprived because they can't fall asleep early enough to get sufficient rest before their alarm goes off. There's growing recognition that this is a problem worth addressing. Some schools have shifted to later start times for teenagers, whose circadian rhythms naturally shift later during adolescence. Companies are experimenting with flexible schedules that allow people to work during their peak hours of alertness. There are also genetic variations in how much sleep people need. Most adults need 7 to 9 hours. But there's a small percentage of people who genuinely function well on 6 hours or less. They have genetic mutations that make their sleep more efficient. Unfortunately, most people who think they're in this category aren't. They're just chronically sleep deprived and used to it. The key is self-awareness. Pay attention to how you actually feel and function, not how you think you should feel. Your body knows what it needs. Now, as we move toward the end of our journey together, let's talk about what good sleep actually looks like and how to get it. Sleep isn't just about duration, quality matters too. You could spend 9 hours in bed, but wake up feeling exhausted if that sleep is fragmented or doesn't include enough time in deep sleep and REM sleep. Your sleep cycles through different stages throughout the night. Light sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep, back to light sleep. Each cycle takes about 90 minutes, and you typically go through 4 to 6 cycles per night. Each stage has different functions. Deep sleep is when that glymphatic cleaning happens, when growth hormone is released, and when your body does much of its physical repair. REM sleep is when most dreaming occurs, when emotional processing happens, and when creative connections are made. You need both. And you need them in the right proportions, which generally means you need enough total sleep time for multiple complete cycles. Creating conditions for good sleep starts with consistency. Your body thrives on routine. Going to bed at roughly the same time each night and waking up at roughly the same time each morning helps regulate your circadian rhythm. Yes, even on weekends. Sleeping at drastically different hours on Saturday and Sunday can make Monday morning feel like jet lag. Your sleep environment matters. Cool temperatures help. Your body temperature needs to drop slightly to initiate sleep, so a bedroom that's around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit is ideal for most people. Darkness helps. Even small amounts of light can interfere with melatonin production, so blackout curtains or an eye mask can make a difference. Quiet helps, or, if you live in a noisy environment, white noise or earplugs. What you do before bed matters too. That wind-down period we talked about, dimming lights, putting away screens, engaging in calming activities, reading a paper book, taking a warm bath, gentle stretching, meditation or deep breathing. What you avoid matters. Caffeine has a half-life of about 6 hours, which means that if you drink coffee at 4 in the afternoon, half of that caffeine is still in your system at 10 at night. Alcohol might make you feel drowsy, but it disrupts sleep architecture, reducing REM sleep and causing fragmented sleep later in the night. Exercise helps with sleep, but timing matters. Vigorous exercise too close to bedtime can be stimulating. Earlier in the day is generally better. These aren't rigid rules. They're guidelines, principles that you can adapt to your own life and circumstances. The goal is to work with your biology rather than against it. Let's address something that many people struggle with: what to do when you can't sleep. Lying in bed awake, watching the clock, feeling anxiety build as the hours tick by. This creates a negative association between bed and wakefulness. Your brain starts to learn that bed is where you lie awake and worry, rather than where you sleep. If you've been lying awake for more than 20 minutes or so, get up, leave the bedroom, do something quiet and unstimulating in dim light, read something boring, listen to calm music, wait until you feel genuinely sleepy, then return to bed. This helps retrain your brain to associate bed with sleep rather than wakefulness. Paradoxically, trying hard to fall asleep often backfires. The effort itself creates tension and anxiety that prevents sleep. Sometimes the best approach is to let go of trying. Focus on simply resting, on breathing slowly, on relaxing your body. Sleep often comes when you stop chasing it. For chronic insomnia, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, CBTI, is the gold standard treatment. It's more effective than sleeping pills in the long term and doesn't have side effects. It involves changing thoughts and behaviors around sleep, addressing the underlying patterns that maintain insomnia. Sleeping pills have their place, but they're not a long-term solution. Many of them don't produce natural sleep architecture. They sedate you, which is not the same as healthy sleep, and they can create dependency. If you're relying on sleeping pills for months or years, it's worth exploring other options with a healthcare provider. As we near the end of our time together tonight, I want to zoom out and think about what all of this means. Sleep is not an indulgence. It's not laziness. It's not time wasted. Sleep is when your brain cleans itself, when your memories are consolidated, when your body repairs tissue, when your immune system builds defenses, and when your emotions are processed and regulated. Sleep is when growth happens, when healing happens, and when integration happens. We live in a culture that often treats sleep as negotiable, as something to sacrifice in pursuit of productivity or success. We admire people who brag about getting by on 4 hours a night. We wear our exhaustion like a badge of honor, proof of our dedication and hustle. But this is misguided. Sleep is not the enemy of productivity. Sleep is the foundation of productivity. A well-rested brain works better in every way. Better focus, better memory, better problem solving, better decision making, better emotional regulation, better creativity. If you want to be effective at anything, you need to sleep. And beyond effectiveness, beyond productivity, there's simply the experience of being alive. The quality of your days depends on the quality of your nights. When you're well rested, the world looks brighter. Food tastes better. Conversations are more engaging. You have more patience, more energy, and more capacity for joy. Sleep isn't just about what you can accomplish. It's about how you experience being human. There are societal changes we need to make this easier. School start times that align with adolescent biology. Work cultures that don't glorify overwork and sleep deprivation. Healthcare systems that screen for and treat sleep disorders. Urban design that reduces noise pollution. But you don't have to wait for society to change. You can start prioritizing your own sleep tonight. You can recognize that those hours of darkness matter. You can protect them, value them, and treat them as non-negotiable. There's something almost sacred about sleep when you really think about it. Every night you practice a kind of trust. You lie down, close your eyes, and surrender consciousness. You let go of control. You become vulnerable. And you trust that your body knows what to do, that it will keep your heart beating and your lungs breathing, that it will carry out all those invisible processes of repair and renewal, and that you will wake up again. In a world that demands so much of us, constant connectivity, endless productivity, perpetual availability, sleep is one of the last bastions of necessary disconnection. When you're asleep, you can't check your email. You can't respond to messages. You can't work on that project or worry about that deadline. You're simply not there, not available, not online. And maybe that's part of why we resist it. Maybe sleep feels like falling behind, like missing out, like losing ground in a race that never ends. But what if we've got it backwards? What if sleep isn't falling behind? It's catching up. Not losing ground, but gaining it. Think about the metaphors we use. We fall asleep, as if it's a descent, a dropping away. But perhaps it's more accurate to think of it as a return, a coming home, a settling back into your body, into your breath, into the quiet rhythms that sustain you. Every creature that sleeps is performing a kind of biological poetry. The dolphins who rest half their brain at a time, keeping one eye open to watch for predators, while the other half dreams of whatever dolphins dream of. The birds who lock their talons around a branch so they don't fall even as they slip into unconsciousness. The otters who hold hands while they sleep so they don't drift apart in the current. We humans, with our complex brains and anxious minds, sometimes make it harder than it needs to be. We fight our tiredness with caffeine and artificial light. We schedule our lives in ways that conflict with our biology. We fill our bedrooms with screens and distractions. We bring our worries to bed with us like unwelcome companions. But underneath all of that, your body still knows. It knows the ancient rhythms of waking and sleeping, of activity and rest, of exertion and recovery. Your body knows how to sleep. You did it instinctively as a baby. You can learn to do it well again as an adult. Let's think for a moment about dreams. We haven't talked much about them, but they're an integral part of sleep, particularly REM sleep. and they're utterly mysterious. Science can tell us a lot about what happens in the brain during dreaming. We know which regions are active, which neurotransmitters are present, and which stages of sleep produce which types of dreams. But the subjective experience of dreaming, the vivid narratives, the impossible physics, the emotional intensity, remains strange and wonderful. In dreams, you can fly. You can visit places that don't exist. You can speak with people who died years ago. Time bends and breaks. Cause and effect become optional. Your waking mind knows that none of it is real, and yet in the dream, it feels completely real. You're genuinely surprised when you discover you can breathe underwater. You're genuinely afraid of the shadow figure approaching. Some people remember their dreams vividly every morning. Others rarely remember dreaming at all, though studies show that everyone dreams multiple times each night. The dreams are there. The remembering is what varies. There have been many theories about what dreams mean. Freud thought they were disguised wishes. Jung saw them as messages from the unconscious. Modern neuroscience tends to view them as a byproduct of memory consolidation. Your brain sorting through the day's experiences, making connections, sometimes creating bizarre narratives out of random neural firing. But maybe the meaning of dreams isn't what they represent. Maybe their meaning is simply that they happen, that your mind is creative enough, flexible enough, to construct these elaborate scenarios every night, that even in unconsciousness, some part of you is still weaving stories. You spend years of your life in these internal worlds that vanish the moment you wake. All those dream places you've visited, all those dream conversations you've had, all those dream problems you've solved or failed to solve. It's a secret life you live every night, a parallel existence that mostly evaporates with the dawn. And perhaps that's okay. Perhaps not everything needs to be remembered or analysed. Perhaps dreams are meant to be ephemeral, like morning mist burning off under sunlight. They do their work, processing emotions, consolidating memories, making creative connections, and then they dissolve, leaving you with nothing but a vague feeling or a fragment of an image. There's something beautiful in that impermanence, in the nightly reminder that not everything can be captured or controlled or held onto, that some experiences are meant to simply pass through you. Now let's consider sleep in the context of relationships, because how you sleep affects how you connect with others, and your relationships affect how you sleep. Sleep deprivation makes you less empathetic. When you're exhausted, you have less capacity to understand others' perspectives, less patience for their struggles, and less emotional bandwidth to support them. You're more likely to misread social cues, more likely to take offense where none was intended, and more likely to respond harshly. Partners who are sleep deprived have more conflicts and less ability to resolve those conflicts constructively. Parents who are sleep deprived are more likely to be irritable with their children. Colleagues who are tired struggle to collaborate effectively. Sleep affects every relationship you have, and the reverse is true as well. Relationship stress affects sleep. Worry about a conflict keeps you awake. Loneliness makes it harder to fall asleep and stay asleep. Social support and feeling connected to others are associated with better sleep quality. For couples sharing a bed, sleep becomes a negotiation. Different chronotypes. One person is a morning lark, the other a night owl. Different temperature preferences. Different sensitivities to light and noise. One person snores, the other tosses and turns. These aren't trivial matters. They affect both partners' sleep quality and therefore their health, mood, and cognitive function. There's no shame in sleeping separately if it means both people sleep better. Some cultures find it strange that Western couples assume they must share a bed. Maybe we should question that assumption. If separate bedrooms or even separate beds in the same room mean both people wake up rested and happy, that's a gift to the relationship. not a failure of intimacy. Sleep is personal. It's individual. Your sleep needs might be different from your partner's, and that's okay. Finding arrangements that allow both people to sleep well is an act of love. Let's talk about sleep across the lifespan, because it evolves from infancy through old age, and understanding that evolution can help us be gentler with ourselves and others. Babies sleep in short bursts, waking every few hours because their tiny stomachs can't hold enough to sustain them for longer. Their sleep cycles are shorter, about 50 minutes instead of 90. They spend more time in REM sleep proportionally, perhaps because their brains are developing so rapidly and need that neural activity. Parents of newborns are often desperately sleep deprived. If that's you, know that it's temporary. It feels eternal when you're in it, but it passes. And know that your baby isn't sleeping poorly to spite you. They're sleeping exactly as they're biologically programmed to sleep. It's hard, but it's normal. Toddlers and young children need 10 to 14 hours of sleep, including naps. They're growing rapidly, learning constantly, and all that development requires serious sleep. Yet they often resist bedtime with impressive determination. This too is normal. Their emerging independence and their fear of missing out compete with their biological need for rest. Teenagers' circadian rhythms naturally shift later. A teenager who can't fall asleep until 11 at night and struggles to wake up at 6 in the morning isn't being lazy or difficult. Their biology is doing exactly what it's programmed to do during adolescence. Starting school at 7:30 in the morning for this age group is, from a biological perspective, rather cruel. Young adults can often get away with less sleep or irregular sleep schedules. They can pull all-nighters and recover quickly. This doesn't mean it's healthy or optimal, just that youth provides some resilience. But it's also when many people establish sleep habits that will affect them for decades. Middle age is when sleep problems often emerge or worsen. Hormonal changes, increased stress, health conditions and medications all can disrupt sleep. This is also when the long-term consequences of chronic sleep deprivation start becoming more apparent. Midlife is an opportunity to reassess and prioritize sleep before those consequences accumulate further. And in older age, as we discussed earlier, sleep architecture changes. But older adults who maintain good sleep hygiene, who stay physically active, and who address sleep disorders can continue to sleep well. The notion that poor sleep is just an inevitable part of aging isn't quite accurate. At every stage, sleep looks different and serves different functions. Being patient with yourself and others, and understanding that sleep needs change, can reduce frustration and promote better rest. We should acknowledge the privilege inherent in much of this discussion. Talking about optimizing sleep, about creating perfect sleep environments, about reducing stress, these assume a level of control that not everyone has. If you're working 2 jobs to make ends meet, you might not have the luxury of 8 hours in bed. If you're a single parent caring for young children, your sleep will be interrupted whether you like it or not. If you live in a noisy neighborhood, or a too hot apartment, or a homeless shelter, you can't simply adjust the thermostat or install blackout curtains. Structural inequalities affect sleep. Shift workers have circadian disruption built into their schedules. People living in poverty experience chronic stress that disrupts sleep. Communities of colour face disproportionate exposure to noise pollution and environmental stressors. Access to healthcare for sleep disorders isn't equally distributed. So if you're someone who can't sleep well because of circumstances beyond your control, please know that's not a personal failing. You're not doing something wrong. Your body is responding to a difficult situation with limited resources. And for those who do have more control over their sleep, there's perhaps a responsibility to use that privilege. To sleep well, to rest well, so that you have the energy and capacity to contribute to creating a world where everyone can sleep safely and sufficiently. To advocate for policies that protect sleep, labour laws, noise regulations, housing standards, and healthcare access. Sleep is both deeply personal and inherently political. Your individual sleep matters, and the systems that shape whether people can sleep matter too. Let's return to something fundamental, what sleep actually feels like from the inside. Because for all the science we've discussed, the neurons and hormones and brain waves, sleep is ultimately an experience. There's that moment when you're hovering on the edge. You're aware that you're becoming less aware. Thoughts start to drift and blur. The boundary between waking and sleeping becomes porous. You might have a sudden jerk, a feeling of falling, and you're back on the waking side for a moment. Then you drift again. Eventually you cross over, and then nothing. Or not exactly nothing. There's some awareness during dreams, though it's different from waking awareness. But for stretches of the night, particularly during deep sleep, you're simply gone. Not there, not anywhere. And then hours later, you return. Gradually or suddenly, consciousness reconstitutes itself. You become aware of your body again, of the room, of time having passed. You open your eyes to a world that continued without you, and you rejoin it. It's extraordinary when you think about it, this daily disappearance and return, this regular rehearsal of letting go. Some spiritual traditions see sleep as a small death and waking as a small rebirth, not meant morbidly, but as an observation of the pattern, the surrendering of consciousness, the trust that you'll return. What does it feel like to sleep well? It feels like nothing, in the best possible way. You're not aware of the hours passing. You're not conscious of being unconscious. And then you wake up feeling restored, refreshed, ready. Your body feels lighter. Your mind feels clearer. The world seems more manageable. What does it feel like to sleep poorly? It feels like time stretching and distorting, like being trapped in a strange liminal space that's neither true sleep nor true wakefulness. Hours drag by while you're aware of every sound, every uncomfortable position, and every anxious thought. And in the morning, you feel like you've been working all night, exhausted before the day even begins. The contrast between these two experiences is profound, and it affects everything that follows. As we come to the end of our exploration, let's consider one more angle, the way modern life has changed our relationship with sleep, and whether we can find our way back to something healthier. For most of human history, we slept when it was dark and woke when it was light. There were variations, of course, fires that extended the day, cultural practices around sleep, and seasonal changes in day length. But fundamentally, our sleep was tied to natural light-dark cycles. Then we invented ways to control light: candles, oil lamps, gas lights, and electric lights. Each innovation pushed back the darkness a little further. We could be productive for more hours. We could socialize late into the night. We could read or work or play whenever we chose. This is progress in many ways. Light brings safety, opportunity, and connection. But it also severed the natural link between darkness and sleep. We're now in a constant state of artificial day. We decide when to sleep not based on light availability, but based on schedules, obligations, and entertainment options. And we've become collectively sleep deprived. Studies show that on average, people sleep about 2 hours less per night than people did a century ago. That's a massive shift in a relatively short time, evolutionarily speaking. We're running an uncontrolled experiment on ourselves. What happens to a species that suddenly reduces its sleep by 25%? We're finding out. Rising rates of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, depression, anxiety, and dementia. Sleep deprivation likely contributes to all of these. So what do? We can't uninvent electric light, nor would we want to. But we can be more intentional. We can recognize that just because we can stay up all night doesn't mean we should. We can create boundaries that our grandparents didn't need because darkness provided natural boundaries for them. We can treat sleep as a form of preventive medicine, as an investment in our health, our relationships, and our quality of life. We can push back against cultural messages that equate sleep with weakness or laziness. We can model healthy sleep habits for our children. We can design our lives as much as possible to support rather than undermine our biology. This isn't about returning to some idealized past. It's about moving forward with wisdom, taking what's best about modern life, the safety, the opportunities, the connections, while also honoring the ancient needs of our bodies. So here we are, near the end of this journey through the landscape of sleep. We've explored your brain, your body, your emotions, and your memories. We've looked at what happens when sleep goes well and what happens when it doesn't. We've considered the science and the poetry, the personal and the political. If you take nothing else away from this, take this. Sleep matters. It matters more than you probably realized. It's not optional. It's not negotiable. It's foundational to everything else you want to do or be. You deserve to sleep well. Not as an indulgence or a luxury, but as a basic requirement for health and well-being. Protecting your sleep is an act of self-respect. It's saying, my health matters. My mind matters. My capacity to be present and engaged with life matters. And when you sleep well, you show up differently in the world. More patient, more creative, more resilient, more capable of joy, better able to handle challenges, more fully yourself. The world needs well-rested people, people who can think clearly, feel deeply, create boldly, and connect authentically. People who have the energy and emotional bandwidth to care for others and work toward positive change. Your sleep is a gift, not just to yourself, but to everyone whose life touches yours. So tonight, when you finish listening to this, when you turn off the light and settle into your bed, do so with intention, with gratitude for your body's ability to heal and renew itself, with trust in the process that has sustained life for millions of years. Let go of the day. Let go of your worries, your to-do lists, your regrets, and your anxieties. They'll still be there tomorrow if you need them. Right now you have one job: rest. Feel the weight of your body sinking into the mattress. Notice your breath, that steady tide that's been with you since your first moment and will be with you until your last. Feel it slow and natural as you relax. Your brain is ready to do its work, to clean and repair and consolidate and create. Your body is ready to heal. Your immune system is ready to build defenses. Your heart is ready to slow and rest. All the invisible machinery of your being is poised to carry out the miraculous maintenance that happens every night. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to try. You just have to allow it, to surrender, to trust. And in the morning, you'll wake to a world that looks a little brighter, feels a little more manageable, and holds a little more possibility, because you gave your body what it needed. You honored the necessity of rest. You acknowledged the wisdom of sleep. This is why sleep is really important, not just for survival, but for flourishing, not just for functioning, but for thriving, not just for getting through life, but for truly living it. So sleep well, sleep deeply, sleep enough. Your body is waiting to restore you. Your mind is waiting to refresh itself. Your life is waiting for you to show up fully rested, fully present, and fully yourself. The darkness is not empty. It's full of healing, full of renewal, full of preparation for tomorrow. Let yourself fall into it Let yourself rest. Let yourself sleep. Good night. Tonight, guys, we're going to learn about the nervous system, but not in the crazy electric way you might think. Instead, we'll learn how this amazing network... Tonight, guys, we're going to learn about the nervous system, but not in the crazy electric way you might think. Instead, we'll learn how this amazing network of cells and pathways makes the most peaceful times in your life. We'll walk together through the quiet hallways of your brain as it gets ready for sleep. We'll meet the soft chemical messengers that guide you to sleep and learn how your body's most complicated system becomes your most trusted friend in sleep. Instead of seeing your nervous system as a buzzing electrical grid, picture it as a huge old library that is closing. The day's busy readers have left. The harsh fluorescent lights have dimmed to warm amber, and now the sacred ritual of organizing, filing away, and getting ready for tomorrow's discoveries begins. Tonight, we'll look at the nervous system that gently guides you into sleep, not the one that wakes you up with morning alarms. Let's start our journey in the place we know best, your brain, which is a 3-pound universe that lives safely inside your skull. But tonight, we won't think of it as your body's command center barking orders. Instead, think of it as an old, wise conductor getting an orchestra ready for its last and most beautiful movement of the day. Your neurons are like musicians getting ready to play the most relaxing symphony ever written, the music of sleep. You see, your brain isn't just one organ, it's made up of different neighborhoods, each with its own personality and job. As night falls, these neighborhoods slowly change from the busy activity of day to the calm rhythms of night. The cerebral cortex, the wrinkled outer layer of your brain where your conscious thoughts dance when you're awake, starts to calm down. The millions of neurons that spent the day processing information, making decisions, and making memories now start to slow down, like streetlights going out one by one across a city at midnight. This change doesn't happen all at once like flipping a switch. Instead, it happens slowly, like a sunset, with colors changing from bright gold to soft amber to deep purple without anyone noticing. Your cortex has different parts that need to wind down at different times this evening. The visual cortex, which worked hard all day to make sense of the stream of images coming in through your eyes, starts to let go of the outside world first. The auditory regions, which processed every sound from birds singing in the morning to people talking at night, begin to ignore the less important sounds of everyday life. But this quieting isn't random or out of control. It follows patterns that are written into your DNA and have been guiding human sleep for hundreds of thousands of years. The suprachiasmatic nucleus is a small group of cells deep in your brain that acts as your body's master clock. Imagine a patient old lighthouse keeper looking out over the water for signs of darkness, ready to start the evening's gentle ritual of guiding ships safely to port. This amazing timepiece, which is only as big as a grain of rice, has about 20,000 neurons that pulse in time with the rotation of the Earth. These cells get messages from your eyes about how bright the world is during the day. But when night falls, they start to put together the most complicated biological symphony you'll ever hear. The change from being awake to being asleep. The suprachiasmatic nucleus doesn't do this by itself. It works with other timing centers in your body to make what scientists call a hierarchy of biological clocks. Every organ, tissue, and even single cell has its own rhythm. Your liver has its own clock that helps it break down nutrients. Your muscles have clocks that tell them when to grow and fix themselves. Your immune system has clocks that tell it when to be most careful about getting sick. All of these peripheral timekeepers look to your suprachiasmatic nucleus as their conductor, following its lead as it responds to the daily cycle of light and darkness. The first movement of this symphony starts with the slow lowering of a hormone you might not expect: cortisol. Cortisol is a gentle motivator during the day that helps you stay alert and focused. It naturally rises in the morning, giving you the energy you need to face the day's challenges. It also naturally ebbs and flows depending on how stressed or active you are. But when your master clock knows that night is coming, it tells your adrenal glands to make less cortisol. Imagine the conductor's baton slowly lowering, telling the brass section to stop playing. This suppression of cortisol is very important because cortisol and sleep are very closely linked. Having too much cortisol in your blood will keep you awake and anxious, with your mind racing with thoughts and your body tense and ready to act. When cortisol levels drop in the evening, your nervous system gets one of its first signals that it's time to switch from the active mode of day to the restorative mode of night. A small, pinecone-shaped gland in the center of your brain, called the pineal, starts its nightly routine at the same time. The pineal gland is one of the most beautiful parts of the human body. Philosophers used to call it the seat of the soul, but we now know it as the source of something just as magical, melatonin. The pineal gland is located between the two hemispheres of your brain. It is connected to your visual system through a complicated pathway that lets it detect changes in light, even though it is deep inside your skull. When it gets dark, this tiny gland starts to release melatonin into your bloodstream, like a soft mist spreading over a calm lake at dusk. Melatonin levels stay low during the day and start to rise as evening approaches. This is a pattern that happens every time. The most production happens in the middle of the night, usually between 2 and 4 a.m. After that, it slowly goes down until dawn. A lot of people think that melatonin is a sleeping pill that your body makes, but it's not. It's more like a soft whisper, a chemical lullaby that travels through your blood to receptors all over your nervous system. When melatonin touches these receptors, they start to change how your brain works from the bright, sharp focus of the day to the soft, flowing rhythms of sleep. Melatonin doesn't make you sleep. It just opens the door and gently asks you to come in. There aren't equal amounts of melatonin receptors in your brain. They group together in places that are important for controlling sleep, especially in the suprachiasmatic nucleus itself. This creates a feedback loop in which melatonin affects the master clock that starts melatonin production. This helps to stabilize and strengthen your circadian rhythms. It's like a grandfather clock that not only tells time, but also listens to its own ticking to make sure it stays in perfect time. But getting ready for sleep isn't just about turning off systems that are active during the day. It also needs to gently wake up sleep-promoting pathways that have been patiently waiting their turn. Clusters of neurons in a part of the brain called the ventrolateral preoptic area, which we'll call the sleep center, start to release a chemical called GABA. Melatonin is a soft whisper at night, while GABA is a warm hug. Gamma-aminobutyric acid, or GABA, is the main neurotransmitter that stops your nervous system from working. In other words, it's the chemical that tells other neurons to slow down, talk more quietly, and get into a calmer rhythm. Think of GABA as a kind librarian who walks through the stacks at closing time and puts a finger to her lips to tell everyone to be quiet. Your sleep center's neurons don't just release GABA at random times. They make a complex network that can feel how your brain and body are doing and react to signals about your stress levels, fatigue, circadian time, and even your mood. When these neurons that help you sleep sense that it's time to rest, they start to work harder and send out waves of GABA that spread through your nervous system like ripples on a pond. As GABA spreads its calming effect through your brain, something wonderful starts to happen in your cerebral cortex. The beta waves that made your mind alert and thinking start to slow down and change into alpha waves. The brain's alpha waves are like a deep, satisfied sigh. They stand for that calm time between waking up and going to sleep, when your mind is still aware, but not actively trying to think or solve problems. This change from beta to alpha waves is a big change in how your brain processes information. When beta waves are in charge, your neurons fire in patterns that are mostly independent and happen at a high frequency. This helps with focused attention, analytical thinking, and active problem solving. But when alpha waves start to appear, your neurons start to work together, firing in longer, slower rhythms that help you relax and think about yourself. When your brain switches to alpha waves, the activity in its network also changes. When you are awake and alert, your brain keeps what neuroscientists call task-positive networks. These are groups of brain areas that work together to focus your attention on the outside world and help you reach your goals. But as alpha waves get stronger, these task-positive networks start to quiet down, and other networks become more important. The default mode network is one of the most important networks that comes to life when you relax. When your mind isn't focused on anything in particular, like when you're mentally wandering, this network becomes active. The default mode network is linked to self-reflection, memory consolidation, and the kind of loose associative thinking that often happens before you go to sleep. This change isn't sudden, like flipping a switch. It's more like how daylight slowly fades into twilight. Your neurons, which may have been firing 30 or 40 times a second when you were really focused, are now firing at a slower pace. They start to sync up with each other, making waves of electrical activity that move across your brain like gentle swells on a calm ocean. As this synchronization gets stronger, your brain waves slow down even more, going into theta rhythms. Theta waves, which happen 4 to 8 times a second, are linked to the sleepy state just before sleep, when the edges of reality start to blur and the first wisps of dreams start to form. Your thoughts become less straight and more connected. The logical connections that guided your thoughts throughout the day yield to the more fluid and imaginative connections that will soon blossom into dreams. Theta waves are interesting because they show a state of consciousness that is not fully awake or fully asleep. When you're in this theta state, your mind is more open to making strange connections and getting creative ideas. A lot of artists and inventors say that their best ideas come to them when they are sleepy and in a theta state, either right before they go to bed or right after they wake up. Your logical and critical thinking systems have let their guard down, letting more fun and creative neural processes come to the surface. Your thalamus, which is an egg-shaped structure deep in your brain that acts as a relay station for sensory information, starts to change in one of the most amazing ways in all of neuroscience during this time. Your thalamus has been busy all day taking in information from your senses and deciding which ones you should pay attention to. Like a skilled air traffic controller, it has been able to handle the constant flow of sights, sounds, smells, and feelings that want your attention. Not only does the thalamus pass on sensory information, but it also actively sorts and prioritizes it based on what you need and what you're paying attention to right now. Your thalamus helps you focus on your friend's voice and block out the noise around you when you're talking in a busy restaurant. It makes visual signals that could be key-like objects more clear, while making other visual input less clear when you're looking for your keys. One of the most important things that consciousness does is this selective attention process. But when it's time to sleep, your thalamus starts to close the gates. It begins to block out more and more sensory information from the outside world. Sleep researchers call this sensory gating. For example, the sounds of traffic outside your window become background noise. You stop being aware of how the sheets feel against your skin. You won't notice the small changes in the temperature of the room that happen during the day. The thalamus isn't shutting down. It's just switching from connecting you to the outside world to keeping you from being disturbed while you sleep. Your nervous system does this sensory gating for you, and it's one of the most caring things it does. It knows that sleep isn't just the lack of wakefulness, it's a different state of mind that needs its own special environment. Your thalamus is like a loyal guardian that stands watch at the gates of awareness and makes sure that only the most important signals, like a crying child, a smoke alarm, or the touch of a loved one, can get through to your peaceful sleep. The thalamus does this by changing the electrical properties of its neurons, which lets some signals through and blocks others. Thalamic neurons fire in a steady, rhythmic pattern called tonic firing when you are awake. This lets them send sensory information to the cortex accurately. But when sleep is near, these neurons change to a firing pattern called burst firing, in which they go from being very active to being very quiet. This burst firing pattern works like a filter that keeps most sensory information from getting to your cortex, but lets through signals that are very important or strong. It's like having a high-tech security system that can tell the difference between a leaf falling on the roof and someone trying to break in. When you first fall asleep, the thalamus is very picky about what information it thinks is worth your time. As your brain gets deeper into this safe state, other parts of it start to get ready for sleep in their own special ways. Your brainstem, which is the oldest part of your nervous system and controls basic life functions like breathing and heart rate, starts to coordinate the physical changes that happen when you fall asleep. Neurons in the brainstem release chemicals that start to calm your muscles, slow your breathing, and lower your heart rate. The locus coeruleus is a part of the brainstem that is very important for sleep. It is also the main source of the neurotransmitter norepinephrine. Norepinephrine keeps you alert and ready to deal with problems or opportunities while you are awake. During the day, the neurons in the locus coeruleus fire all the time, releasing norepinephrine that keeps you awake. But as bedtime gets closer, something amazing happens. The locus coeruleus starts to calm down. The neurons that have been firing all day start to calm down, and the norepinephrine levels in your brain start to go down. This drop in norepinephrine is like taking away one of the main supports for your waking consciousness. It lets your brain settle into the different neural patterns that help you sleep. When the locus coeruleus calms down, it affects your whole nervous system. Norepinephrine usually helps with memory, attention, and emotional responses. Your ability to stay focused naturally decreases as its levels drop. Your feelings become less intense and more dreamy. The strong mental focus that comes with being awake starts to fade and blur around the edges. The Rafe nuclei are another important part of the brainstem for sleep. They make most of the serotonin in your brain. People often think of serotonin as a feel-good neurotransmitter, but it has a more complicated role in sleep. Serotonin helps keep your mood stable and supports different parts of your thinking during the day. But like norepinephrine, serotonin levels go down as sleep gets closer, which helps calm down the brain systems that keep us awake. When norepinephrine and serotonin levels go down, it makes room for other neurotransmitter systems to become more important. As these chemicals that help you stay awake go away, systems that help you sleep become more powerful. The GABA system we talked about before takes over and spreads its calming effect throughout the brain. When you're awake, adenosine, a chemical that builds up in the brain as a result of neural activity, reaches levels that make you sleepy and sleepy. Adenosine is especially interesting because it's how your brain keeps track of how long you've been awake. Your neurons use a molecule called ATP to get energy throughout the day as they work to process information and stay awake. Adenosine is one of the things that comes out when ATP is broken down to free its energy. Your brain builds up more adenosine the longer you stay awake. Sleep researchers call the rising levels of adenosine sleep pressure. This is a biological urge to sleep that gets stronger over time. Adenosine works on certain receptors in your brain that make you sleepy and slow down systems that keep you awake. This is why you get more and more tired as the day goes on, even if you don't do anything physical. Your brain is literally keeping track of how long you've been awake and slowly increasing the pressure to rest and get better. Caffeine works by blocking adenosine receptors, which stops adenosine from making you sleepy. This is why caffeine can make you feel awake even when you haven't had enough sleep. It doesn't give you energy, it just stops your brain from getting the signals that tell it to rest. When the caffeine wears off, all the adenosine that has built up hits your adenosine receptors at once. This is what causes the caffeine crash that many people feel. As your brain gets into this sleep-friendly neurochemical state, high GABA and adenosine, low norepinephrine and serotonin, the real magic of sleep starts to happen. Your neurons, which spent the day making connections and remembering things, are now doing the important work of consolidation and maintenance. It's like the brain's nightly cleaning routine, but instead of cleaning furniture and putting things away in closets, your neurons are strengthening important memories and getting rid of the metabolic waste that built up while you were awake. Scientists poetically call this process synaptic scaling, or synaptic homeostasis. As you learn new things and have new experiences throughout the day, the connections between your neurons, which are called synapses, get stronger. Memories are made, and knowledge grows when synaptic connections get stronger. Every time you practice a skill or remember something, the neural pathway gets stronger and works better. But if this kept going on without stopping, your brain would eventually get full, like a hard drive that has no space left for new files. The synapses would get so strong and so many that they would get in each other's way, making neural noise that would make it hard for you to think clearly and remember new things. Your brain needs a way to keep the signal-to-noise ratio of neural communication stable. Sleep is the answer to this problem because it is both useful and very healing. Your brain weakens the strength of synaptic connections while you sleep, especially during the deep stages we'll talk about in a minute. This might sound counterproductive. Why would your brain weaken the connections that hold your memories and knowledge? But this process is actually very complicated. It doesn't make all connections weaker in the same way. Instead, it acts like a skilled editor, keeping the most important and meaningful connections while letting the weaker, less important ones fade away. This synaptic scaling has two great purposes. First, it clears out the neural equivalent of yesterday's newspaper, which is information that was important for a short time but doesn't need to be kept forever. This makes room for new learning. Second, it makes the signal-to-noise ratio of really important memories stronger, which makes them stand out more clearly from the background of everyday life. Your brain seems to lovingly curate the museum of your mind every night, deciding which exhibits should be on display and which should be put away or let go. Several molecular mechanisms that work during sleep are responsible for synaptic scaling. One of the most important ones is the control of proteins that affect the strength of synaptic connections. When you're awake, these proteins build up at synapses in response to brain activity. But while you sleep, other proteins become active that can change or remove these synaptic proteins. This effectively downscales the strength of connections throughout the brain. This downscaling isn't random, it's based on what happened the day before. Synapses that were used a lot and were part of important memories are more likely to be kept or even made stronger. Synapses that were only weakly or rarely activated are more likely to be reduced in size. In this way, sleep acts like a natural selection process for memories, keeping the ones that matter and getting rid of the ones that don't. But getting ready for sleep goes far beyond your brain. As your peripheral nervous system, the network of nerves that connects your brain and spinal cord to the rest of your body, adjusts to the rhythms of night, a similar change is happening throughout your body. As bedtime approaches, your autonomic nervous system, which controls the involuntary functions that keep you alive, also starts to change. The sympathetic nervous system gets your body ready for action during the day, while the parasympathetic nervous system promotes rest and recovery. These two parts of the system usually work together in a careful way. As sleep nears, your nervous system smoothly transitions from sympathetic to parasympathetic dominance. The sympathetic nervous system, which kept you awake and ready to face challenges all day, starts to lose its power. This system works by releasing neurotransmitters like norepinephrine and epinephrine, adrenaline, which speed up the heart rate, breathing rate, blood pressure, and muscle tension. These changes are great for the busy demands of daytime life, but they don't work with the quiet restoration that sleep needs. You can feel the changes in your body as sympathetic activity goes down. Your heart rate slows down from its daytime speed. When you are awake and active, it might be 70 to 80 beats per minute, but when you are in deep sleep, it is only 60 beats per minute or less. Your breathing becomes deeper and more regular as you go from the erratic patterns of waking breathing to the slow, steady rhythm of sleep breathing. As your blood vessels relax, your blood pressure goes down a little. This drop in blood pressure is good for both the heart and the brain's nightly maintenance activities. Lower blood pressure lets cerebrospinal fluid move more freely through neural tissue, which helps the body get rid of waste while you sleep. Your pupils, which opened up during the day to let in more light and keep you awake, start to close. The parasympathetic nervous system controls this pupillary constriction, which is part of the body's overall shift toward rest and saving energy. Your digestive system even starts to change how it works to get ready for the different metabolic needs of sleep. It's like your body is slowly and gently letting go of the stress it needed to get you through the day's tasks. The muscles that kept you standing up start to relax. The muscles in your face relax, which makes your expression calm and neutral. The small muscles around your eyes start to relax too. Your parasympathetic nervous system, which is also known as the rest and digest system, starts to take over at the same time. This is the part of your nervous system that helps you heal, grow, and get better. The parasympathetic system works with different pathways and neurotransmitters than the sympathetic system. It uses chemicals like acetylcholine to help you relax and recover. When the parasympathetic system is active, your digestive system works harder to break down the nutrients from the day while you sleep. To break down any food that is still in your stomach, it makes more acid. Your intestines contract more to move nutrients through your body. Your liver makes more proteins and other molecules that cells need to heal themselves. This is why eating a big meal right before bed can sometimes make it hard to sleep. Your digestive system is working hard and needs energy and attention. When you sleep, your immune system also becomes more active. You might think of sleep as a time when you don't do much, but your immune system actually works harder while you sleep. During sleep, the number of some types of white blood cells goes up. Cytokines, which are signaling molecules that help the immune system work together, are made in a certain way that peaks at night. This immune system activation while you sleep has a number of important purposes. It helps your body fight off infections that you might have come into contact with during the day. It helps fix tissues that were hurt by normal wear and tear, and it helps to strengthen your immune system's memory, which makes it easier for you to deal with threats in the future. Your parasympathetic nervous system also tells your pituitary gland to release growth hormone. This hormone is very important for repairing tissues, growing muscles, and doing all the other cellular maintenance tasks that keep your body healthy. It reaches its highest level during deep sleep. Growth hormone literally makes kids and teens taller overnight by speeding up the growth of bones and other tissues. In adults, growth hormone is still very important for healing and restoring health. It works all the time, even when people are asleep. During sleep, growth hormone is released in a very specific way. The most sleep occurs in the first few hours, especially during the deep, slow-wave sleep stages. This timing makes sense from a biological point of view, because growth hormone works best when the body is at rest and not busy with other metabolic needs. The hormone helps the body make proteins, break down fats, and fix tissues all over the body. Growth hormone also has big effects on your nervous system. It helps neurons grow and stay healthy, makes new synaptic connections, and helps repair neural tissue that may have been hurt during the day. You wake up every morning with a nervous system that has been refreshed and renewed by the growth hormone that is released while you sleep. Your core body temperature starts to drop as your body gets used to this parasympathetic state. This may seem like a simple physical reaction to not moving, but it's actually a complex biological signal that helps set the time for sleep. Every day, your body temperature rises during the day to help your metabolism work and falls at night to help you sleep. The drop in temperature that happens before sleep is both a cause and an effect of the sleep process. Your brain's master clock tells you it's time to go to bed, which starts processes that help you lose heat. Blood vessels close to your skin widen to let warmth escape into the air. You might naturally want to sleep in a cooler place or change your clothes to help you lose heat. Your hypothalamus, which is a part of your brain that controls your body's temperature, is in charge of this cooling process. There are special neurons in the hypothalamus that can sense changes in body temperature and tell the body how to react. As the sun goes down, these thermosensitive neurons start to cool your body down so that you can sleep. The link between sleep and temperature is very clear. Your core body temperature usually drops by 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit while you sleep. The lowest point is usually between 4 and 6 a.m. This is the lowest temperature at which you are most likely to feel sleepy if you are awake, and the hardest time to stay awake. This temperature pattern can help explain a lot of things that happen when you sleep. That's why a lot of people naturally put their feet out from under the covers when they sleep. The hands and feet are important places for heat to escape, and cooling these parts of the body helps lower the overall core temperature. This is why a cool room often feels better for sleeping than a warm one. Your body is naturally cooling down, and this is why a warm bath before bed can actually help you sleep, even though it seems like it would make you sleep less. The warm bath makes your blood vessels open up, and when you get out, the quick cooling helps your body get ready for sleep. One of the many things your nervous system uses to start the complex process of falling asleep is temperature. Your body's temperature receptors send information to your brain about the temperature of the environment. This information is combined with other signals about the time of day, the amount of light, and the pressure to sleep inside your body to figure out the best time to sleep. It's a great example of how your body's different systems talk to each other using the same language of chemistry and physics. Your nervous system doesn't work alone. It gets information from your cardiovascular system, endocrine system, immune system, and even the temperature of your skin all the time. It then uses this information to create a coordinated response that helps you fall asleep faster. Now that your nervous system is getting used to its nighttime routine, you are starting to sleep properly for the first time. There are different stages of sleep, and each one has its own pattern of brain activity and role in restoring your body at night. Electroencephalography, EEG, is a method that uses electrodes placed on your scalp to measure the electrical activity of your brain. This is how these stages were found. The first stage is called N1 sleep, which stands for non-REM, or non-rapid eye movement sleep. This name sets it apart from REM sleep, which we'll talk about later on our journey. N1 sleep is the gentle shift from being awake to being asleep. It is a liminal state that usually lasts only a few minutes, but is a very important link between the conscious and unconscious worlds. During N1 sleep, your brain waves slow down even more into the theta range we talked about before. This makes long rolling waves of electrical activity that move across your cortex like gentle swells across a calm ocean. These theta waves, which go around 4 to 8 times per second, show a big change in how your neurons talk to each other. When you're awake and paying attention, your brain waves are usually in the beta range, 13 to 30 Hz. When you're relaxed, they're usually in the alpha range, 8 to 13 Hz. These higher frequencies help with the quick processing of information and making decisions that conscious awareness needs. But when you go into N1 sleep, the slower theta rhythms take over. This shows that your brain is no longer trying to stay active in the world around you. You go from being awake to being asleep when your brain waves change from alpha to theta. People often say that they lose awareness of their surroundings at this point, even though they may still be somewhat responsive to things happening around them. During N1 sleep, you are still somewhat aware of your surroundings, but your awareness has become dreamy and detached. This is because your brain is going through different neural rhythms as it transitions. You might have hypnagogic hallucinations at this point. These are short, vivid images or feelings that seem to come out of nowhere. These aren't real dreams yet. They're just the first signs that the unconscious mind is starting to speak. You might see flashes of colour, hear bits of conversation, or feel like you're falling. This is the classic hypnic jerk that wakes people up during this time. Hypnagogic hallucinations happen when your brain is learning how to work in a new way. Your sensory systems work together to make sense of the world around you when you are awake. Your visual system takes in real images from your surroundings. Your auditory system takes in real sounds, and your brain combines all of this information into your conscious mind. But this sensory integration isn't as reliable during the N1 transition. The thalamus is starting to block sensory information, which slows down the flow of signals from outside to your cortex. Your brain is also starting to make its own patterns of activity that will eventually turn into dreams. The hypnagogic phenomena of N1 sleep show how these two processes are similar. Bits of brain activity mix with less sensory information that is still there. These things happen because your thalamus is still partly open to the outside world. This lets bits of sensory information mix with the first stages of brain activity that are like dreams. Your mind is learning to speak a new language, the language of dreams, and these hypnagogic experiences are its first tentative words. The hypnic jerk, which is the sudden feeling of falling that can wake you up just as you're about to fall asleep, is your brain's way of protecting you during this risky time. When your muscles start to relax in preparation for sleep, your brain sometimes misreads this as a sign of danger and causes a reflexive muscle contraction that briefly wakes you up. It's an evolutionary remnant, a way to protect ourselves that may have helped our ancestors avoid falling out of trees or other high places where they slept. Your muscle tone starts to drop during N1 sleep, but you're not completely paralyzed yet. That will happen later. Your breathing gets more regular, but it's not yet as slow and deep as it will be. Your heart rate is still slowing down, but it hasn't reached the lowest point it can go while you sleep. N1 is a real transition state, a soft bridge between being awake and being deeply asleep. In healthy adults, this first stage of sleep usually lasts only 5 to 10 minutes, but don't let its shortness fool you into thinking it's not important. N1 sleep is an important neurological milestone because it's when your brain stops being awake and starts the sleep process. People who have trouble making this change may have trouble sleeping and lie awake for hours, unable to cross this line. When you go from N1 sleep to N2 sleep, your nervous system crosses a clearer line into unconsciousness. N2 sleep is the most important part of your sleep. In healthy adults, it usually makes up about 45 to 55% of the total time spent sleeping. This is when your brain really starts to show the unique electrical patterns of sleep, which are different from anything else that happens when you're awake. During N2 sleep, your EEG starts to show two things that sleep researchers call sleep spindles and K complexes. These unique wave patterns are so reliable that they are used to define this stage of sleep. Researchers who study sleep know that the brain has definitely gone to sleep when they see it on an EEG recording. Sleep spindles are short bursts of rhythmic brainwave activity that happen every few seconds during N2 sleep and last for about 0.5 to 1 second. Their name comes from how they look on an EEG readout, where they look like the spindle shape of a football spinning through the air, an amplitude that rises quickly and then falls slowly. These spindles usually happen 12 to 14 times per second, which is in the lower part of the beta range. However, their burst-like pattern sets them apart from waking beta activity. Your thalamus, which has been slowly closing the gates to outside awareness, makes sleep spindles. But instead of just blocking information, your thalamus starts to make these rhythmic bursts of activity during N2 sleep that serve many purposes. The spindles help you stay asleep by stopping sensory information from getting to the cortex, but they do this in a way that lets important signals through. Sleep spindles are like a high-tech alarm system for your brain while you sleep. They make it so that people don't respond as much to things outside of themselves for a while, but they also make it so that important information can still get to the brain if it needs to. Even though both sounds are at about the same volume, a parent who is sleeping through normal household noises might wake up right away when they hear their baby crying. The brain's sleep spindle system helps us tell the difference between these important things. Studies have demonstrated that individuals who produce a greater quantity of sleep spindles generally experience more restorative sleep and report enhanced sleep quality. The spindles seem to show that the brain can keep you asleep even when things around you are hard. People who have trouble sleeping often have less sleep spindle activity, which suggests that their brains may have trouble keeping the protective barriers that let them sleep without interruptions. The thalamus has a complicated circuit that makes sleep spindles. Reticular thalamic neurons, which are a type of neuron, act as pacemakers by sending out rhythmic bursts of inhibitory activity that make the spindle pattern. These neurons get information from both the cortex and other thalamic areas. This lets them change the frequency and intensity of the spindle based on how the brain is doing overall. It's interesting that the frequency of sleep spindles differs from person to person. This could be because of genetic differences in how the brain is built and works. Some people naturally make spindles at the lower end of the frequency range, about 11 to 12 Hz, while others make spindles that are faster, 13 to 15 Hz. These individual differences seem to stay the same over time, almost like a neural fingerprint that shows how each person sleeps differently. K complexes are even more interesting than sleep spindles. These are big, slow waves that show up on the EEG all of a sudden, like gentle giants walking across the landscape of your sleeping mind. A K complex is a pattern that lasts for several seconds and looks like a sharp negative wave followed by a slower positive wave. They happen on their own during N2 sleep, but they can also be caused by sounds or other things from the outside world. It's amazing that K complexes can be triggered by things outside of the body. Your nervous system keeps an eye on things even when you're asleep, and mostly cut off from the outside world. It can spot and assess possible threats or important information. When your brain is asleep and hears a sound that might need your attention, it makes a K-complex to quickly check if the sound is important enough to wake you up. You don't even know that this process is happening because it happens so quickly. Your brain hears the sound, decides it's not important enough to wake you up, and lets you keep sleeping peacefully. Your brain only starts to wake you up when it hears something that is really important, like a baby's cry, a smoke alarm, or someone calling your name. Internal events in the brain itself can also cause K-complexes. They can happen when someone wakes up briefly or is aroused but doesn't reach the level of consciousness. The K-complex seems to be a way to actively keep the arousal down and keep the sleep going in these situations. Your brain seems to be saying, "No, we're sleeping now," and is working hard to keep you from waking up. Several parts of the brain need to work together to make K-complexes. The first sharp wave seems to come from the frontal cortex, while the slower wave seems to come from deeper brain areas like the thalamus. This distributed generation implies that K-complexes signify a comprehensive cerebral response to potential sleep disturbances, reflecting a synchronized endeavor by the nervous system to preserve a tranquil state of rest. Sleep spindles and K-complexes both help keep your sleep from being disturbed, while still letting your brain respond to things that are really important. They are elegant answers to one of the most important problems with sleep: how to be unconscious and restorative while still being safe and able to respond to real emergencies. Your brain does this while you sleep by using these complex patterns of neural activity that can tell the difference between what's important and what's not. Your body keeps relaxing slowly during N2 sleep. Your heart rate and breathing slow down and become more regular than they were in N1. Your core body temperature keeps going down until it reaches its lowest point at night. Most importantly, your muscle tone drops a lot compared to when you wake up, but not as much as it will during the REM sleep we'll talk about later. Your brainstem controls this drop in muscle tone during N2 sleep through a complicated network of inhibitory signals. Neurons in the pons and medulla send signals down your spinal cord that make the motor neurons that control your voluntary muscles less excitable. This makes your muscles relax more deeply than you can do on your own while you're awake. N2 sleep relaxes your muscles, which is important for a number of reasons. It lowers the amount of energy your body uses, which lets it focus its resources on repairing and restoring itself. It stops you from doing any movements that might happen in your dreams, or when you're mentally active while you sleep, and it might help improve the way blood flows through your body, which helps your heart rest while you sleep. Scientists call this muscle atonia, and it is controlled by your brainstem through the release of certain neurotransmitters. Glycine and GABA are both inhibitory neurotransmitters that are released at synapses in your spinal cord. This disconnects your motor cortex from your muscles. It's a short-term paralysis that can be fully reversed. It keeps your body still and safe while your brain does its nightly repair work. One of the biggest changes in the brain during the whole sleep cycle happens when you go from N2 to N3 sleep, which is also called slow wave sleep or deep sleep. The brain waves during N3 sleep are the slowest of the whole sleep cycle. They are big rolling delta waves that move across your cortex at a slow pace of less than 4 cycles per second. These are the most in-sync brain waves your nervous system can make. This level of neural coordination is impossible when you're awake. When you think about what they mean, the delta waves of deep sleep are really amazing. Your billions of neurons tend to fire independently when you're awake, which creates the complex, chaotic patterns of electrical activity that support the wide range of conscious thought. You can pay attention to one thing while other things happen in the background, switch quickly between different types of thinking, and keep track of more than one stream of information at the same time. But during N3 sleep, something amazing happens. Millions and millions of neurons start to fire together in slow, coordinated bursts. It's like a huge, disorganized crowd suddenly starts marching in perfect time. This firing in sync makes the delta waves that are big and slow, which are what deep sleep is all about. EEG electrodes can even pick up these waves through the skull and scalp. Your brain can do things that would be impossible when you are awake and your neurons are firing randomly. The slow, coordinated waves of N3 sleep seem to work like a gentle tide, moving through your brain and taking away the metabolic waste that built up during the day. Recent studies have shown that during deep sleep, the gaps between your brain cells can grow by as much as 60%. This lets cerebrospinal fluid move more freely through neural tissue and get rid of toxins. This discovery has changed everything we thought we knew about why we sleep. Your brain doesn't have a regular lymphatic system like other organs in your body do to get rid of waste. Instead, it uses this glymphatic system, which is a network of fluid-filled channels that work hard while you sleep. The synchronized neural activity during deep sleep seems to cause the pulsating flow of cerebrospinal fluid that powers this cleaning system. The waste products removed during this nightly cleansing include some that are directly related to neurodegenerative diseases. People with Alzheimer's disease have a lot of amyloid beta, a protein that builds up in their brains. Deep sleep helps get rid of this protein more quickly. During these times of increased waste clearance, the tau protein, which is linked to different types of dementia, is also processed. Some scientists now think that this nightly cleansing process is one of the main reasons we sleep. Your brain makes metabolic waste products as a normal part of neural activity, just like your muscles make lactic acid when you work out. But your brain needs this special state of synchronized slow wave activity to open the pathways for effective waste removal. Muscles can be rested and cleaned separately, so the amount of deep sleep you get may have a big effect on the health of your brain in the long run. People who don't get enough deep sleep on a regular basis may not be getting rid of these waste products from their brains well enough, which could make them more likely to get neurodegenerative diseases later in life. It reminds us how important it is to get good sleep as we get older to keep our brains healthy. Your brain also works on memory consolidation while you are in deep sleep, as we talked about before. The slow waves of N3 sleep seem to help move information from temporary storage areas in your hippocampus to more permanent storage areas in your cortex. This process involves the synchronized replay of patterns of neural activity that were formed during learning. When you learn something new during the day, groups of neurons in your hippocampus fire together in certain ways to store the new information. During deep sleep, these same groups of neurons spontaneously reactivate, firing in the same patterns but much faster than when the person first learned the information. This faster replay seems to help move memory traces from the hippocampus to the cortex, where they can be combined with what you already know and stored for longer. The process works very well. During sleep, a pattern of neural activity that might have taken several seconds to form while learning can be played back in just a few milliseconds. This time compression lets your brain go over and solidify a lot of information during the short hours of deep sleep. It's like watching a fast-paced movie of your day's events, with your brain picking and choosing which scenes should be kept in your permanent memory. This process of consolidating memories is why getting a good night's sleep after learning something new can make it much easier to remember and understand the next day. Students who stay up all night studying for tests are actually stopping their brains from doing the work that would help them do better. The information might be in their hippocampus for a short time, but without the consolidation that happens during deep sleep, a lot of it will be lost or not fit in well with what they already know. It looks like the slow waves of deep sleep also help with synaptic homeostasis, which is the process of keeping the connections between neurons strong. When you're awake, synapses all over your brain get stronger as you learn and have new experiences. But you need to find a balance in this process so that your neural networks don't get too much information. When you're in deep sleep, the synchronized slow waves seem to send a global reset signal that lowers the strength of synapses all over the cortex. This downscaling doesn't get rid of memories. Instead, it makes the overall strength of synaptic connections normal, while keeping the relative differences that encode specific memories. It's like turning down the volume on an entire sound system to keep the instruments at the same level of loudness without making them sound bad. The release of growth hormone that happens most during deep sleep also helps your nervous system heal physically. Even though neurons are very advanced, they are still living cells that need to be cared for and fixed. As they break down over time, the proteins that make up their structure need to be replaced. It is important to keep the membranes that control the flow of electrical signals in good shape. Based on what happens during the day, the synapses that connect one neuron to another need to be made stronger, weaker, or replaced. Growth hormone helps all of these things happen by making proteins in the nervous system. When you sleep deeply, your neurons make more of the proteins they need to keep their structure, fix cells, and keep synapses working. This is why deep sleep is so important for healing brain injuries or when you're learning a lot. Your nervous system literally rebuilds itself while you sleep. The amount of deep sleep you get follows patterns that are easy to predict over your lifetime. Kids and teens spend a lot more time in deep sleep than adults do. This is because their brains are still growing and they are learning and growing a lot during these times. Young children may spend 20 to 25% of their total sleep time in deep sleep, while healthy adults usually spend 15 to 20%. As we get older, we gradually get less deep sleep. Older adults might only spend 5 to 10% of their sleep time in the deepest stages, and some might not even get any deep sleep at all. This decrease in deep sleep that comes with age may be linked to some of the cognitive changes that come with aging, such as less memory consolidation and a higher risk of neurodegenerative diseases. As we get older, our brains change in ways that make it harder for us to get deep sleep. The brain areas that make slow waves, especially the frontal cortex, change with age in ways that can make it harder for them to make the synchronized activity that is needed for deep sleep. Researchers are looking into ways to help people keep their deep sleep as they get older, because they understand these changes. As N3 sleep gets deeper, usually in the first third of the night, your nervous system gets very close to perfect rest. Your brain waves are moving the slowest and most in sync. Your body temperature has dropped to its lowest point for the night. Your heart rate and breathing are at their most relaxed right now. The protective mechanisms in your brainstem keep your muscles in a gentle suspension, making you feel more relaxed than ever. Deep sleep is when your blood pressure drops to its lowest point of the day. This gives your heart and blood vessels a much-needed break and time to heal. The lower pressure lets your heart work less hard while still making sure that all your organs get enough blood flow. People who don't get enough deep sleep are more likely to have high blood pressure and other heart problems because this cardiovascular rest is so important. During deep sleep, your immune system is at its most active, and different types of immune cells move around your body more quickly. During sleep, your body makes more antibodies that fight infections, and your immune system's memory, its ability to remember and respond to future threats, gets stronger. This is why you often feel better after sleeping when you're sick, and why not getting enough sleep makes you more likely to get sick. Your endocrine system also goes through big changes while you sleep deeply. Your body releases other hormones besides growth hormone that help with repair and restoration. During sleep, prolactin, a hormone that helps the immune system and tissue repair, reaches its highest level. Melatonin keeps moving around your body, helping cells fight off free radicals. Your body's ability to process glucose and keep blood sugar levels stable changes while you sleep. An outside observer might think that this is a state of complete inactivity, but that couldn't be more wrong. When you sleep deeply, your nervous system is like a master craftsman working in a well-organized workshop. Every tool is in its place, every process is optimized, and every action is planned and effective. The calmness on the outside hides an amazing symphony of cellular activity, all aimed at healing, strengthening, and getting ready for the next day's events. The neurons in your cortex fire in slow, coordinated patterns. This makes the cerebrospinal fluid flow, which cleans up waste from your brain. Your hippocampus is playing back memories from the day and moving them to places where they will stay forever. Growth hormone is making new proteins in your nervous system that are needed for cell maintenance and repair. Your autonomic nervous system still carefully controls your heart rate, breathing, and other vital functions, but at a lower level that is right for deep sleep. Your temperature control system keeps your core temperature low while making sure that your vital organs stay warm enough. While you sleep, your immune system is on high alert, looking for and destroying any possible threats. Your nervous system starts to wake you up slowly from a deep sleep, but not in a straight line. Instead, it goes in a circle that repeats all night, going from N3 to N2, and then to N1 for a short time before going into the most interesting and mysterious stage of sleep, REM, or rapid eye movement sleep. One of the most dramatic changes in all of neuroscience is the change from deep sleep to REM sleep. Deep sleep is like a quiet, organized workshop where things get done in perfect harmony. REM sleep is like a lively theatre where your mind's most complex plays happen in vivid, impossible detail. Your brain is almost as active metabolically during REM sleep as it is when you're awake. But this activity is turned inward, which is what makes dreams so rich and complex. When you go into REM sleep, your brain's neurotransmitter systems completely change. The chemicals that were most active during the first stages of sleep, like GABA, adenosine, and the slow wave generating mechanisms, start to fade into the background. Your brain starts to release acetylcholine instead. This is the same neurotransmitter that keeps you awake and focused during the day. Acetylcholine, on the other hand, during REM sleep makes you focus on the theatre of your own mind instead of the outside world. The brainstem areas that make REM sleep happen, especially the pons, start sending signals to your nervous system that make this stage different. These neurons in the brainstem fire in strong bursts that travel up to your thalamus and cortex, making the high-frequency brain waves that are common during REM sleep. At the same time, they send signals down to your spinal cord that cause the most severe muscle paralysis of the entire sleep cycle. Your eyes start to move quickly from side to side under your eyelids, following the pictures in your dreams. This stage of sleep is called REM sleep because of the rapid eye movements that happen during it. The eye movements are not random. They seem to match the visual content of dreams, as if you are actually watching the scenes play out in your sleep. During REM sleep, your breathing changes a lot. Sometimes it's fast and shallow, and other times it's deep and slow. This depends on what you're dreaming about. When you dream about running, your breathing might speed up as if you were really doing it. If you dream about having a calm conversation, your breathing might be slower and more regular. Your heart rate also changes more, depending on how you feel about the things in your dreams. During REM sleep, your brain waves change from the slow, synchronized patterns of deep sleep to faster, more chaotic rhythms that are very similar to those of waking consciousness. Gamma waves and beta waves come back. Gamma waves are some of the fastest brain waves your nervous system makes. This high-frequency activity shows how much work your brain does while you sleep, creating complex sensory experiences, emotions, and stories all on its own. But the most interesting thing is that your muscles relax even more during REM sleep. During the early stages of sleep, you are gently paralyzed, but during REM sleep, you become almost completely still. The only parts of your body that are still moving are your diaphragm, which keeps you breathing, and the tiny muscles that move your eyes. This full relaxation of the muscles is very important for REM sleep because dreams can be very real and active. Neurons in your brainstem release glycine and GABA at synapses all over your spinal cord, which causes the muscle paralysis of REM sleep. These neurotransmitters stop your motor cortex from connecting to your voluntary muscles, which keeps the things you might do in your dreams, running, fighting, dancing, flying, safely in your sleeping mind. This protective paralysis is so strong that if you could somehow wake up from REM sleep right away, you wouldn't be able to move for a few seconds while your brainstem systems got back to normal motor control. People sometimes experience this condition called sleep paralysis, which makes them aware before the REM atonia has fully worn off. This makes them feel awake but unable to move, which is scary but not dangerous. The dreams that happen during REM sleep are very different from anything else your nervous system makes. They mix memories, feelings, sensations, and imaginary things in ways that would be impossible when you are awake. You might fly through childhood scenes that turn into your current workplace, talk to people who died years ago, or solve hard problems with solutions that make perfect sense in the dream but seem strange when you wake up. These dreams are a result of the unique neural activity that happens during REM sleep. Thalamic gating cuts off most of your sensory systems from the outside world. This makes your brain start to make its own reality using the same neural networks that process real perceptions when you are awake. The visual cortex, which usually processes signals from your eyes, instead responds to signals from your brainstem, which makes dreams so vivid. During REM sleep, your auditory cortex, which usually processes sounds from your ears, reacts to activity in your brain, creating the conversations, music, and sound effects you hear in dreams. The somatosensory cortex makes you feel things in your dreams, like the wind when you're flying, the water when you're swimming, and the touch of things and people in your dream world. During REM sleep, your brain's emotional centers, especially the amygdala and other limbic structures, become very active. This is why dreams can be so emotional, from the joy of dreams that come true to the fear of nightmares. Dreams can make you feel stronger than you do when you're awake, because they don't have the prefrontal cortex to help control your emotional responses. This making of an internal world is good for your nervous system in many ways. Dreams seem to be very important for processing emotions because they let you deal with feelings and events in a safe, simulated setting. REM sleep's strong emotional activation may help you deal with traumatic or stressful events by adding them to your existing emotional framework in a way that makes them less disruptive when you're awake. It also seems that dreams help people come up with new ideas and solve problems. During REM sleep, your brain can connect different pieces of information in ways that might not happen when you're awake and thinking in a more logical, linear way. A lot of artists, scientists, and inventors have said that they have had big ideas in their dreams. This suggests that REM sleep is very important for creative thinking. The strange and impossible things that happen in dreams may be a normal part of this neural process. REM sleep lets your brain explore new combinations of ideas and experiences by temporarily putting aside the rules that govern waking thought. Dreams can help your brain test out new neural connections and pathways that might be useful in real life. For example, you might dream about flying, talking to dead relatives, or moving between places without any trouble. It seems that REM sleep also helps with procedural memory consolidation, which is the process of making skills and habits stronger instead of specific factual memories. Research indicates that individuals acquiring a new motor skill experience heightened REM sleep the subsequent night, with the quantity of REM sleep correlating to skill enhancement. This indicates that REM sleep aids in the consolidation of both the movements and the neural programs governing skilled behavior. Changes in neurotransmitters that happen during REM sleep have big effects on your whole nervous system. REM sleep lowers levels of norepinephrine and serotonin, which doesn't just affect your brain. These chemicals also control many functions of the peripheral nervous system. During REM sleep, norepinephrine levels drop, which may make it harder for the body to control its temperature. This is because norepinephrine usually helps control blood vessel constriction and heat retention. During REM sleep, your body has a harder time keeping your temperature stable, which makes you more sensitive to the temperature around you. You might wake up more often from REM sleep if your sleeping area is too hot or too cold. People may have more vivid dreams in the early morning hours, when REM sleep is most common and room temperatures are usually at their coolest. This could be because they are sensitive to temperature. REM sleep's high levels of acetylcholine also have special effects on your autonomic nervous system. During REM sleep, your heart rate changes more than it does during other stages of sleep. This is called heart rate variability. It seems that the emotional content of dreams is linked to this increased variability. For example, your heart rate may speed up during exciting or scary dream sequences and slow down during calm dream periods. Your breathing patterns during REM sleep also change more often, and they can even stop for a short time or become irregular. These changes in breathing are usually not harmful for healthy people, but they can be more of a problem for people who have sleep apnea or other sleep-disordered breathing conditions. People with breathing-related sleep disorders may find it especially hard to get through REM sleep, because the muscle relaxation can make airway obstruction worse. The cycle between REM and non-REM sleep goes on all night, usually in a set pattern called sleep architecture. You spend more time in the deeper stages of non-REM sleep early in the night, when your sleep pressure is highest and your circadian drive to wake up is lowest. You get most of your physical restoration and memory consolidation during these early deep sleep periods, which are very important after a busy day. As the night goes on and you get some of your sleep debt paid off, the REM periods get longer and happen more often. The longest and most vivid REM periods usually happen in the hours just before you naturally wake up, when your body's circadian system is getting ready for the day ahead. This is why you probably remember dreams from the early morning hours. You spend more time in REM sleep, and you are more likely to wake up right after a REM period. The fact that the balance between non-REM and REM sleep changes shows that these stages have different jobs. Deep sleep takes over early in the night, when your body needs to heal the most. As your body gets closer to being fully restored later in the night, REM sleep takes over. This is when your brain processes emotions and integrates memories to get you ready for the mental challenges of a new day. Your circadian clock and your homeostatic sleep drive work together in a complicated way to create the whole pattern. Your circadian system sets the basic times for when you should sleep and wake up, and your homeostatic system keeps track of how long you've been awake and changes the intensity and makeup of your sleep as needed. This two-step process helps make sure you get the right amount of sleep at the right times. Your homeostatic drive will be higher if you go to bed later than usual, which will help you get more deep sleep early in the night. When you're under emotional stress, your brain may need more time or more REM periods to process what you're going through. As dawn approaches and your sleep cycles come to an end, your nervous system starts to slowly bring you back to waking consciousness. This process of waking up is just as carefully planned as the process of going to sleep. It involves the coordinated activation of many brain systems that bring waking function back to normal. Your circadian clock, which has been keeping track of time all night, starts to let you know that it's time to wake up. Even when there are no outside light cues, your suprachiasmatic nucleus can keep track of time pretty well, getting your body ready to wake up at about the right time every day. As morning approaches, your core body temperature, which dropped to its lowest point during deep sleep, begins to rise a little. One of the first signs that your body is getting ready for the metabolic demands of waking up is that your temperature goes up. The warming trend starts even before you wake up, getting your heart and blood vessels ready for the extra activity that will come with being awake. As your pineal gland gets signals from inside your body about the coming dawn, your brain makes less melatonin. Even without light from outside, your circadian system can tell when the next day is coming and start to make less melatonin. When you wake up and see light from outside, it confirms and strengthens this internal timing signal. The cortisol awakening response is when cortisol levels start to rise. This increase in cortisol helps your body use its energy stores and get back to the alert, focused state of waking consciousness. The release of this cortisol is perfectly timed with your body's circadian rhythms. It usually starts 2 to 3 hours before you wake up and reaches its peak shortly after you wake up. But this process of waking up is slow and careful so that your different neural systems can work together to get going. Your thalamus starts to let sensory information back in, slowly making it more responsive to sights, sounds, and other things in the environment. The process slowly turns off the sensory gating that kept you from waking up, so you don't have to deal with the sudden change that would happen if all sensory input came back at once. As your brainstem sends fewer signals that keep your voluntary muscles relaxed while you sleep, your muscle atonia starts to go away. Your protective paralysis is slowly going away as the glycine and GABA that caused it are cleared from spinal synapses. This lets normal motor control come back. It usually takes a few minutes for this to happen, which is why you might feel a little groggy or unsteady when you first wake up. Your brain waves change from the patterns of sleep to the rhythms of waking up. Alpha waves may take over for a short time as you wake up and become fully alert. This is what many people feel when they wake up. As your brain deals with the demands of being aware of your surroundings and thinking about things, beta waves slowly take over. As your waking systems turn back on, the the balance of neurotransmitters in your brain changes a lot. As neurons in your brainstem start to work normally again, norepinephrine and serotonin levels, which were low during REM sleep, start to rise. Dopamine systems that help with motivation and processing rewards start working again. Acetylcholine is still important, but now it helps with learning and attention while you're awake instead of making dreams. Your autonomic nervous system switches from being parasympathetic to sympathetic, getting your body ready for the day's activities. Your heart rate goes up from the lowest level it can be while you sleep to the normal level when you wake up. As your body gets used to supporting an active metabolism, your breathing gets deeper and more variable. Your blood pressure goes up as your heart and blood vessels get ready to support standing up and moving around. One of the most amazing things that the brain can do is switch from sleep to wakefulness. Your nervous system goes from being focused on the inside, which is best for healing and processing, to being focused on the outside, which is ready to deal with the complexities of the conscious world. It's like seeing a theatre empty after a show and then turning back into a busy city street. The same neural architecture is there, but it serves a different purpose. Your prefrontal cortex, which was mostly off while you were sleeping, turns back on and starts to give you the executive control that is a sign of mature human consciousness. Working memory comes back online, which lets you keep and work with information in your conscious mind. Attention systems turn back on, letting you focus on important information while ignoring other things that might get in the way. As you wake up, you start to feel the effects of the memory consolidation and synaptic scaling that happened while you were sleeping. Information that was only weakly encoded the day before may now be more firmly stored in memory. Yesterday's problems that seemed impossible to solve might have answers that are clear now. The skills you practiced might come to you more easily and naturally. Your nervous system has been working hard all night to keep you healthy, process what you've been through, and get you ready for the new day's challenges and opportunities. Deep sleep has improved lymphatic flow, which has helped clear metabolic waste from your brain. It has made important memories stronger while letting less important ones fade away, which is the best way to store information for a long time. Your nervous system has processed the emotional events of the day before through the intense limbic activation of REM sleep. This has added them to your ongoing psychological story in ways that help you stay emotionally strong and healthy. The deep sleep hormone release and protein synthesis have kept and repaired the cellular infrastructure of your brain and body. Your immune system has done its nightly patrol, finding and getting rid of possible threats while also strengthening its memory of past encounters. Your endocrine system has set hormone levels back to normal and gotten your body's chemical messengers ready for another day of working together. Your heart and blood vessels have had important hours of less work while still keeping the blood flowing that is needed for healing and repair. This is the gentle miracle of sleep, which your nervous system controls with more accuracy and care than any human-made technology. Every neuron, synapse, and chemical messenger works together perfectly to give you the gift of rest and renewal. The process is so complicated that millions of individual cells work together over many timescales to give you the smooth experience of sleep and waking up that you have every night. And what makes this even more amazing is that you don't have to do anything to make it happen. It happens all on its own. You don't have to remember to slow your heart rate while you sleep, let go of growth hormone while you sleep, or make REM dreams. You don't have to think about when to go to sleep, or remember to wake up your motor systems when you wake up. Your nervous system takes care of all of these complicated details just as well as it takes care of your breathing or your heart beating. All you have to do is make the right conditions for sleep. A comfortable place to sleep, a calm mind, and a body that is ready to sleep. Your nervous system will take care of the rest, with an efficiency and sophistication that will amaze you the more you learn about it. The fact that sleep happens on its own is one of the best things your nervous system does for you. In a world that often requires constant attention and conscious control, sleep provides a refuge where one can relinquish control and have faith in the innate wisdom of one's biology. You don't need to manage, optimize, or control the process of sleep. You just need to let it happen and give in to the gentle guidance of systems that have been getting better and better over millions of years of evolution. Getting ready for bed every night is one of the oldest and most important things people do on Earth. Almost every animal with a nervous system shows some kind of sleep-like behavior, so sleep isn't just for people. The preservation of sleep throughout evolution, despite its apparent susceptibility, underscores its essential role in nervous system functionality. Your sleep is linked to the sleep of many other living things. They all follow the same patterns of rest and activity that have been shaped by the same planetary rhythms of light and darkness that have ruled life for billions of years. Melatonin from your pineal gland is the same chemical as melatonin from other mammals, birds, and even plants. The slow waves that happen when you are in deep sleep are similar to those that happen in other mammals. This evolutionary view adds to the amazement of the nightly journey your nervous system takes you on. You're not just healing and renewing yourself, you're also taking part in a biological process that links you to all life on Earth and follows rhythms that are as basic as the rotation of the planet. Before you go to sleep tonight, take a moment to think about how amazing your body is at keeping you safe while you sleep. Be thankful for the neurons that will slow down their firing to give you peace, the chemicals that will wash through your brain to help you heal, the protective paralysis that will keep you safe while you dream, and the biological clocks that will make sure you wake up at the right time, feeling refreshed and renewed. Think about how the growth hormone will flow through your blood and help your body repair itself and keep cells healthy. While you sleep, your immune cells will be on high alert and will patrol your tissues. Be thankful for the systems that control your temperature, your breathing, and your heart. They will all keep you comfortable and your blood flowing smoothly. Be amazed by the memory consolidation processes that will organize and combine your experiences, making important memories stronger and letting less important ones fade away. Be amazed by the emotional processing systems that will help you stay mentally stable and strong by working through the things that happen during the day. Recognize that REM sleep can help you think outside the box and come up with new ideas and solutions to problems you're having. Your nervous system doesn't ask you for anything in return except the chance to do what it does best. Take care of you with a level of care and accuracy that knows no bounds. It doesn't need to be managed or controlled on purpose. You don't have to understand or appreciate it, but doing so can help you get to know this amazing system better. It just wants to serve you and give you the rest and restoration you need to thrive. When you start to fall asleep and your mind starts to fade, billions of cells hold you in their gentle embrace. Their only goal is to give you the rest you need to thrive. Have faith in that hug. Let your own beautiful, complicated, and caring nervous system take you to sleep. Think about how amazing what is about to happen is. When you lie still in bed, your brain will start to make slow waves that will wash away the metabolic waste from the day. Your hippocampus will quickly replay the events of the day, moving important memories to long-term storage and letting unimportant ones fade away. While you sleep, your immune system will work harder, sending out cellular guards to protect and fix your body. Your levels of growth hormone will rise, which will help your body's tissues repair and maintain themselves. Your brain will get rid of harmful proteins that could build up and cause problems over time. Your heart will get a break during this time of lower demand, but it will still need to circulate blood to help it heal. In a few hours, you'll be in REM sleep, which is like a theatre where your brain makes up amazing, impossible worlds using memories, feelings, and imagination. You'll fly through places that only exist in your dreams. You'll use the free imaginative logic of dreams to figure things out. While you sleep, you'll work through your feelings in a safe place, adding what happened during the day to your ongoing psychological story. You won't have to do anything to make any of this happen. You don't have to worry about directing the process or whether it's working right. Your nervous system has been perfecting these procedures for your entire lifetime and for countless generations before you. It knows exactly what to do and when to do it. You just have to let it happen. Imagine that your nervous system is the most caring caregiver you can think of. It never sleeps, takes breaks, or stops working for your health. It doesn't ask for thanks or recognition, but both are fine. It just keeps serving you faithfully, day and night, making sure you have everything you need to live, learn, love, and grow. This caregiver knows you better than you do. It keeps track of every breath you've taken, every heartbeat, and every time you've slept or woken up in your life. It has learned to give you the best rest and recovery based on your own patterns and preferences. It can tell when you need more REM sleep and when you need more deep sleep. It knows how to change your sleep schedule based on what you've been through recently and what you need right now. Your nervous system also links you to something bigger than yourself, the rhythms of nature and the cycles of light and dark that have been in charge of life on Earth for billions of years. As you sleep tonight, you're taking part in a process that connects you to every other sleeping animal on Earth, from the tiniest mammals to the biggest whales. They all follow the same patterns of rest and recovery. The melatonin in your blood right now is chemically the same as the melatonin in a sleeping mouse, a resting bird, or even some plants that have daily cycles of activity and rest. The slow waves that are building up in your cortex follow the same basic patterns that other mammals' brains do when they sleep. Right now, billions of nervous systems around the world are settling down to sleep. You're part of a huge biological symphony. It can be very comforting to feel connected to the bigger patterns of life. Sleep is not an isolated occurrence. It is an integral component of the fundamental rhythm of existence. The same forces that change the seasons and pull the tides are gently pushing you to rest. The earth is spinning under you, which helps you sleep at the right times. Not only does your bed hold you up, but the whole planet does too. As you start to fall asleep, pay attention to the small changes that are happening in your body and mind. Your breathing is getting slower and more regular. Your heart rate is starting to slow down for the night. Your muscles are starting to let go of the stress they held on to all day. Your thoughts are getting less clear and more like dreams. These changes aren't happening by chance. They're the result of very complex biological processes that your nervous system is controlling with perfect timing. Your brainstem's neurons are making fewer neurotransmitters that help you wake up. Your thalamus is starting to block out sensory information, which keeps your sleep from being disturbed by things that don't need to be. Your pineal gland is sending melatonin into your blood like a soft chemical lullaby. You can fully trust these steps. They have been tested and improved over millions of years of evolution. They've safely carried your ancestors through the night for many generations. They've been working hard for you since before you were born, and they'll keep doing so until you die. You are in the care of the most advanced, dependable, and caring system possible. Feel thankful for the hard work they do for you. Your nervous system never complains, asks for time off, or threatens to quit if things aren't perfect at work. It changes to fit whatever situation you put it in. Stress, irregular schedules, or tough environments, and does its best to give you the rest and recovery you need. You should appreciate it and trust it. As you fall asleep, remember that you're not losing consciousness. You're just entering a different state of consciousness. Your brain will still be busy all night, but it will be busy with things that are going on inside of you instead of outside of you. It won't take in information from the outside world. Instead, it will take in information from your own world, like your memories, feelings, experiences, and dreams. This inward focus doesn't mean turning away from life. It means getting more involved with it. Your brain will try to make sense of and connect your experiences while you sleep, which it can't do when you're awake. It will find links between things that don't seem to be related. It will deal with problems and feelings that come up. It will help you remember the most important things and let less important things fade away. Your nervous system will also use this time to do important maintenance that keeps you healthy and working at your best. It will get rid of the waste products that cells built up during the day. It will fix damage to neurons and other tissues. It will make your immune system stronger and get it ready for the challenges of tomorrow. It will help your physical and mental health by balancing the levels of neurotransmitters and hormones in your body. When you're completely at rest, your nervous system doesn't have to split its attention between maintenance tasks and the demands of conscious awareness. This is when all of this restorative work happens most efficiently. This is why sleep is so important. It's not just a break from activity, it's also a time when your body's most important biological processes can work at their best. You might notice that your thoughts become more fluid and connected as you fall asleep. Memories from different times in your life may start to mix together. Images that look real might turn into images that look like dreams. This is your brain starting to work in sleep mode, when the rules of logic and cause and effect become less strict. Don't fight these changes or try to stay awake. Let your mind go where it wants to. Even if what your brain does while you sleep seems strange or illogical to you when you're awake, you should trust that it knows what it's doing. Sleep's associative thinking is very important because it helps your brain make new connections, deal with emotions, and combine experiences in new and interesting ways. Your nervous system is getting ready to take you on a journey through different levels of consciousness, each of which has its own health and wellness benefits. You'll go from the lighter stages of sleep to the deep sleep stage, where your brain waves will slow down to their most synchronized rhythms, and your body will reach its deepest state of relaxation and restoration. Later in the night, you'll go into the bright theater of REM sleep, where your brain will make up detailed dreams using memory and imagination. You could fly, meet people from your past, or find answers to problems that seemed impossible during the day. All of this will happen on its own, thanks to the complex neural processes that control how dreams are made. During these times of deep sleep and dreaming, you'll go through lighter stages that connect different types of unconscious experiences. Your sleep won't be a single uniform state. Instead, it will be a carefully planned series of different neural activities, each of which will help you recover and feel better overall. Your nervous system will always be on the lookout for your safety during this whole journey. It will keep an eye on your surroundings for sounds or other things that might need your attention. It will keep your heart rate, breathing, and other important functions going. It will make sure you are in the right place and comfortable. You can sleep soundly knowing that the most devoted guardian you'll ever have is watching over you. The way your nervous system protects you while you sleep is very advanced. It can tell the difference between sounds that are just annoying and those that could mean danger. It can tell when the temperature, air quality, or other environmental factors that might affect your comfort or safety change. It can even respond to your dreams, keeping you from doing potentially dangerous things in your sleep by putting you in a state of protective paralysis. Your nervous system's job of protecting you goes beyond just keeping you safe. It also keeps your mind healthy while you sleep. When you dream, your mind processes emotions in a safe, controlled space where you can deal with difficult feelings without having to deal with them in real life. Your brain can think about different situations, try out different reactions, and deal with emotions in ways that make you stronger and smarter. As you fall asleep, keep in mind that you're starting one of the most important things you'll do all day. Sleep isn't time taken away from living. It's an important part of a good life. Sleep gives your body the rest and repair it needs to do everything you do while you're awake. Memory consolidation that happens while you sleep is what makes learning and growing possible. Your mental health and strength are helped by the emotional processing that happens while you sleep. Every hour of good sleep is a gift to your future self. The clearing of waste that happens during deep sleep may help keep you from getting neurodegenerative diseases decades from now. When you sleep, your brain strengthens memories. This helps you learn and remember things that will help you for the rest of your life. REM sleep helps you build the mental tools you need to deal with problems that may come up in the future by processing your emotions. Sleep is a gift you give yourself. It's not just a short-term gift of rest and refreshment, but also a long-term gift of good health, mental clarity, and emotional well-being. Your nervous system is the generous benefactor that makes this gift possible. It works hard all night to make sure you wake up refreshed, restored, and ready for whatever the new day may bring. Let go of everything and let the process take over as your mind fades and sleep takes over. Let go of any tension that is still in your muscles. Let go of any worries or thoughts that are still bothering you from the day. Let your breathing find its natural sleep pattern. Give your nervous system all of your trust and let it take care of you. You are about to go through one of the most beautiful and healing processes in all of biology. Your brain will make slow, synchronized waves that will wash through your neural tissue like gentle waves, cleaning up the mess of consciousness and getting ready for new growth. Hormones that help your body heal and grow will be released. Your immune system will be more alert while you sleep, protecting you when you're most vulnerable. In a few hours, you'll enter the amazing world of dreams, where your sleeping brain will mix memories, feelings, and imagination to make experiences that can't happen in real life. You'll go to places that only exist in your mind and meet people who only exist in your dreams. You might also find answers or insights that have been hiding beneath the surface of your mind. All of this will happen in accordance with ancient rhythms that link you to the most fundamental patterns of life on Earth. Your sleep is a basic part of life, just like the beating of your heart, the rhythm of your breathing, and the changing of the seasons. You're taking part in one of the most important and universal things that happen in life. Have faith in this process. Have faith in your nervous system. Have faith in the wisdom of billions of years of evolution that have made these systems for rest and recovery. You don't have to know everything about how sleep works. You just have to let it happen and trust the systems that know exactly what you need. As the last bits of waking consciousness fade away, know that you are safe, protected, and cared for by the best and most devoted system you could ever think of. Your nervous system will keep an eye on your sleep to make sure you get the rest and restoration you need, while also keeping you safe and comfortable all night. And with that trust, that thankfulness, and that complete letting go of your own nervous system's loving care, let yourself fall asleep in peace. With each breath, feel the soft waves of relaxation wash over you, taking you deeper into sleep. Let your own biology's loving embrace keep you safe through the night. You will wake up at the right time, feeling refreshed and ready for the gift of another day. Good night, dear listener. May the symphony of your nervous system be especially beautiful tonight, and may you wake up tomorrow feeling very thankful for the amazing system that makes all of your experiences, both waking and sleeping, possible. You are in the most loving and capable hands possible, your own. So sleep